Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to the high banks of Talladega Super Speedway as it plays host to the sixth race of the second season of the BackFire Sim Racing League Cup Series. It's now the second half of the regular season, the home stretch, if you will, for drivers to make their way up into a playoff position, and what a wild card race to do it at. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Scott Rankin. Now, Scott, normally in between seasons is what we call the silly season, but it seems like last week was the silly season here, at least so far this year. Different drivers moving to different teams. DJ Daniel now with Rebel Racing, Jeffrey Vickery over with JKR Motorsports, Tom Bourne moving over with last week's winner Bronson Stafford, and our broadcast colleague Matthew Rodriguez over at Sky Motorsports. I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces going on, and coming into tonight, different numbers, different teammates, different dancing partners, and oh yeah, by the way, it's all taking place on the eve of a super speedway race.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if there's one time of the year that you don't want any of that to happen, this is definitely it. Look, it has happened, and ultimately, I think I recalled speaking last week, I was saying that the DJ Daniel just wasn't meshing with the JKR Motorsports guys. Well, I hate being right, because that means that those guys have unfortunately parted ways, and they move on as competitors, no longer allies. I mean, they're still fond of each other. They're still obviously going to, you know, have in the back of their minds that's an old teammate. You know, those are guys that I used to respect. So look, when it comes down to what happens out on track, it's still going to be respectful, but altogether it's going to be in a different format, which I think holds some interesting future potential for us.
Huge field here tonight, getting ready to take the green flag in the BackFire 250, presented by JKR Motorsports. We are guaranteed a brand new Talladega winner. Last season, it was our eventual champion Matthew Robinson who took the checkered flag. Not in the field here this season, so we'll see who's going to be able to pick up the checkered flag. So far this season, 5 different races, 5 different drivers have gone to victory lane. We'll see if we can continue that trend, and I believe every single one of those drivers picked up their first career BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series victory in those respective weeks. But drivers are finishing up their qualifying laps here. We'll find out who's going to be top of the board in mere moments. Let's go down trackside for pre-race ceremonies, as we're going to now begin with our invocation this evening, courtesy of Pastor Zach Woods.
Let's pray. Almighty God, I thank you for technology like iRacing that exists, that connects so many different people from so many different walks of life and brings us together in a community. And so, Lord, we thank you. We give you praise that you've brought back to us a couple guys that have been sick with COVID over these last few weeks. We thank you for your healing in their lives. And Lord, as we prepare for tonight's race, we pray for patience. We pray for a good race. And Lord, let our conversations be fruitful and beneficial unto you. We pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
And now please join us with Honoring America. Here is tonight's national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched, or so gallantly streaming, and rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say,
Moments away from the green flag flying here at Talladega Super Speedway. All fine. Wrapping up as Jeremy Richmond sits at the top of the board at number 98, still looking for his first career victory here in the BackFire Sim Racing League Cup Series, and he'll be alongside of former teammate DJ Daniel in the number 23. That's going to be a front row for this race, and just want to point out as well the two drivers that Pastor Zach Woods was talking about in the invocation that are in the field here tonight. Nice to have them back. The number 5 of Chris Hubka and the number 3 of Ryan Sizemore. He was driving the number 8 for the first few races of the season, but he's actually swapped numbers with his Sizemore Motorsports teammate Josh Billiter. So Billiter will be in the 8 car here tonight and Sizemore in the 3. But nice to see Hubka and Sizemore back in the field here this evening.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that. I think we've missed Chris Hubka. he certainly brings a welcome flavor, personality, and flair to the league. And to be perfectly honest, I've definitely missed having him around. So it'd be good to have him back.
Go look here at the starting lineup for this evening's event. We gave you the front row there with Richmond going to be leading us to the green for this 100 lapper. Row 2, Jeffrey Vickery, the new driver behind the wheel of the number 96. And he'll be alongside of Matthew Fleming, who's got his best qualifying effort of the season so far. Driver who knows a thing or two about winning at a super speedway, Christopher Lawrence, going to complete the top 5 as he took the checkered flag last season in the second Daytona race. Mentioned about the fact that this is the second time that BackFire has been to Talladega. It was on the schedule last season as well, and a number of these guys, some of them with great runs last season, some of them with mediocre runs, but it's those type of racetracks, though, Daytona and Talladega, you can't really rely on the statistics of previous seasons because it's such a wild card track. It all really depends on positioning, sometimes depends on luck as to whether you're going to have a good finish or not. Yeah, some drivers are good at the super speedways, but it doesn't always mean that you're going to come out of the end of that race with a clean race car.
No, not necessarily, and I mean that's the other side of the coin, and is that you can come in here, you can do all the planning, you can do all the preparation you like, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be a super speedway, and there's nothing that you can do to change that. The luck elements, yeah, sure, there's a lot of luck elements, but some of it is all to do with when you pit, where you put yourself in traffic. Now, having said that, that's actually a skill that does still play itself out at most other racetracks. We're talking over the last couple of weeks, something I want to push to these drivers once again. Yes, there are elements of luck in racing. There definitely is. There always will be. There's nothing you can do about that, who you're around at different periods of time during the race. But you still control your own destiny. If you make a mistake, you make the wrong pit lane call, you don't push the car ahead hard enough early on, those are all decisions that you can change that affect the outcome of the race. And there are definitely a few drivers in the field that are going to be like that. I'm going to have to keep my eyes on the 24 machine. The reason for that, he was such a good pusher at our earlier Super Speedway race this evening. So Christopher Woodard, long way back in the pack, but expect to see him nudging some of his allies forward.
We saw back in the season opener at Daytona, JKR Motorsports, for most part of that race, they were very good at keeping everybody else at bay, would get themselves lined up 2, 3, 4 cars nose to tail, and no be able to get a run on them. It's going to be a lot of numbers game here tonight. You've got 5 drivers out of JKR Motorsports, 6 drivers out of Rebel, 6 drivers also out of the Sizemore Motorsports stables. There's a possibility that Toyota's out of Spin Move and Sky Motorsports might work together here tonight. So there's going to be a lot of alliances made here this evening during the course of this race. And, there's 2 things that could break those alliances up. One of them is the possibility of green flag pit stops. The field usually gets spread out with that. But then, of course, always around every corner is the possibility as well of the dreaded big one.
But also, something that can't be underestimated at the moment is all of that team shuffling coming at such a vital part in the championship chase, as well as coming at it just before a super speedway race. That is going to have a huge influence. You got a lot of drivers out here that don't know how to trust each other. They haven't read each other enough yet. So there's a lot of shuffling that's still going to go on here tonight. So this is going to be such a unique super speedway race.
BackFire 250% by JKR Motorsports is green as Jeremy Richmond's going to lead 28 cars into turn 1.
Keep your eyes deep in the pack. Don't settle in on anything yet. Just be ready. Watch for the guys that are trying to shuffle themselves out nice and early. The last few weeks, there's a few guys that have gotten themselves into one too many wrecks. They're going to be looking to be a little bit more patient on this initial start.
little bit of daylight right now between the bumpers of Richmond and new teammate Jeffrey Vickery. Matthew Fleming, though, was tucked right up to the bumper of the 23 of DJ Daniel. They tried to stay even with the 98, but now the inside line appears to be getting that edge there through 3 and 4. Now, Jeffrey Vickery, as mentioned, the new driver for JKR Motorsports, but he did run Talladega last season, led 11 laps in that race en route to a 16th place finish.
A big job there from the 23 of DJ Daniels. So he's still working with his old JKR Motorsports guys. I think he actually come down here. He wanted to split them up. He noticed that there was a little bit of a gap forming on that lower line. He slotted himself down in here. There's a problem with this, though. He's going to have an issue trying to get back to that higher line and getting some friends around him. He's surrounded himself with enemy cars, which is a strong suit for shutting them down. Now he's going to have some friends come his way.
And here comes Vickery up to the top. Let's see if Jeremy Erpson is going to come up and give his teammates some draft. You've got Rebel Racing on the bottom. Christopher Lawrence to the back bumper of the 23. That's second and third on that inside line.
I was just having a little bit of a look further back in the pack too, Seth. I saw an extremely messed up rear bumper of the 33 machine. So he's gotten a big whack, a big push at one stage, so much so he's going to have aero issues. And that's Trey Whitehead. He hasn't had a strong season either.
I wonder if maybe there might have been a little bit of a stack up there at the initial start of this race. The car behind him is Zach Woods. Don't see any front end damage on his Toyota Camry. We'll try and see if we can pinpoint who it might have been that ran into the back of Whitehead. All of those drivers up to speed right now. You've got the entire field separated by only 3 seconds. Everybody up in this lead group as Vickery is going to the back. He, Matthew Fleming, tried to make the top line work. Nobody wanted to go up there and help them. They've now faded outside of the top 10.
I'm just going back. Clifford Corriveau was the car that was initially behind Trey Whitehead on that initial jump. He's got a tiny little bit of damage, so I think you might have been right. That initial jump, it might have just been a lot of cars out of sorts of each other, the accordion effect, if you will.
You saw a car get loose there in the middle. That's the 22 of Mike Sibanovsky. He's now got 3 to his outside. I'm going to have to get used to that being Ryan Sizemore and Zach Woods down the inside. Now Joshua Billiter there in the 8 also making the pass. And you talk about the fact that there was contact between the Corvo machine and the 33 of Trey Whitehead. Those are actually a couple of teammates there out of Sizemore Motorsports. So I'm almost wondering if they might have tried to time the start of that race and maybe mistimed it a little bit there, leading to the damage for both drivers.
Yeah, unfortunate, but that's just things. You got to settle down. It's a long race. Don't burn that fast repair. Let's settle down. Let's have some good running now. Ultimately, early issues. What happens now? It doesn't matter. Remember, it's all about getting yourself to that tail end of the race. If anything happens now, it means absolutely nothing by the back end of the race. So settle in. Make sure that you've got a drink handy. Make sure that you're ready to go when your teammates are.
Wow, things are getting dicey up at the front now. DJ Daniel jumped up to the top. That's the 27 of Dylan Herverton making his debut here tonight. He's all over the back bumper of the 23. Meanwhile, Christopher Lawrence, he's picked up Chris Hubka. They're now second and third on the inside line behind Jeremy Richmond. And we talk about the fact that Sizemore and Hubka missed a couple of weeks, obviously, due to the COVID epidemic. And, how much of a, I don't want to say panic, but how much desperation are they going to be in here for these final 5 races to try and gain back the points that they lost with the weeks that they missed?
There's nothing they can do, to be perfectly honest with you. It's over and done with for those guys. So they've just got to settle in. They've got to let it happen. They can't focus on what's behind them. They can't be too focused on what's ahead. They've just got to make sure that they're out here. They're getting the finishes that they need to. If they're focused on anything but what's happening out on the racetrack, that's when troubles will start to arise.
Talked about Chris Woodard being a pusher last time out at a super speedway at Daytona. I think we got to look at that 27 of Dylan Herverton. He's a heck of a pusher because he pushed DJ Daniel to the front there in 1 and 2.
Oh, I can tell you straight for a fact, DJ Daniel just got a lot of disrespect from Jeremy Richmond in the in-game chat. So there is definitely beef between those two drivers.
Daniel still looking for his first win on the season, was a 3-time winner at this point last year, and all of those wins did not come to Super Speedway, so he's also looking for his first career Super Speedway victory here in the BackFire Sim Racing League Cup Series. Behind them, though, they are stacked up 2 by 2 by 2, 3 wide back there for a brief moment. I believe that was the 22 again, taking a look on the top side. Nope, correction, it was actually the 33 car of Trey Whitehead that was trying to make a pass.
Yeah, I was and whatnot going on right now. They've got to settle it back down, remember. If you actually have a look, the cars are actually a little bit spread out. There's no one really making contact with the rear bumper. So there's no one heavy pushing at this stage. There's just sort of a little bit of the aero push going on. That's just about it. Everyone is in that fuel-safe conservation mode because that's how this race is going to be decided, remember.
One driver that's not in the field here tonight as well, people may have noticed, is the guy that won the season opener at Daytona. That's Brock Silvati. He is not going to be able to go 2 for 2 here this season at the super speedways. However, a couple of guys that had some great runs in the Daytona season opener. Aaron Brown's in the field. He was the runner-up. Kyle Gartner finished 3rd. Christopher Woodard finished in 4th. So keep an eye on those guys. They would love to finish a couple of positions better than where they did in the first super speedway race. For Woodard, it'd be its 2nd win. Same for Aaron Brown. Kyle Gartner, though, who was in the Final Four for the championship last season, he's still chasing his first career victory.
Guys out here that just like to get some numbers on the board, you know, they're not even too interested in what number that is. They just want a reasonable number, you know, basically chalked up on the board. They want to be inside the top 5. And ultimately, you got to go out there. You got to have goals. You got to be aggressive sometimes to get those goals done. Is this now the time? Yeah, it probably is. This is probably a really good opportunity for a few of those guys that don't have the points on the board yet to actually get out there and get a strong race result in. But they've got to be patient here. Remember what I said, patience, patience, patience. There's 100 laps here tonight, and we're not even a tenth of the way there yet.
Irvington on the top along with Jeffrey Vickery. They're starting to fall to the back. They had actually a bit of difficulty lining up the bumpers there for about a lap and a half, and it has cost them. Kyle Gartner, Christopher Woodard working together on the inside line of the 27, 96, as well as the 4 Matthew Fleming continuing to drop towards the back of the pack. Up at the front, single file, driver trying to take a peek there. I think that's Aaron Brown in the 95. He took a little look to the inside there of Alexander Kerfan. Those two teammates lined up nose to tail. Now, Brown already with a victory this season at Nashville Super Speedway. Kerfan, on the other hand, he's still looking for his first win on the season.
Carl way out of line all the way back in the picture as well. We've also dropped Patrick Jenks at this point in time from the field, so he's clambering around trying to get himself back onto contention. I have no idea why he's just fallen a mile and a half off. Like he's gone. He's
slow.
Not even.
Are slow. I believe that's over in turn 3. Dylan Herberton in the 27. No, correction, that's turn 1. I'm not sure what went on with him. He was very slow up on the top side there.
There's a couple of cars that are really out of position here. I'm like thoroughly confused. I'm gonna have to go back. I'm showing it was Gene Cato. It's Patrick Jenks is one of them.
He is 2 laps down. He was actually just on pit road. It's showing 2 laps ago in that 94. So that's obviously an unscheduled stop.
Is there a fast repair burn there at all?
There is not. Still has his fast repair intact, although he did spend over a minute on pit lane, and thus the 2 laps that he lost there.
Something's happened. Yeah, I would say something's happened IRL that he's had to jump out and deal with, because that's not a kind of sim related error, unless he's the only other thing that pops to mind is maybe a hardware failure. So that's completely and utterly unscheduled, and given the time that he was on pit road, I would not expect that to be anything related to the race whatsoever.
Jay Daniel leading the way. We saw Zach Woods falling back. He had actually drifted back to around 22nd, 23rd, lost a couple more spots. He's now the last car in the lead group, currently in the 26th position. The miracle man, if you will, from Pocono, who came from 7 laps down to finish up inside the top 10 in 7th place. So maybe just back there trying to keep his equipment in one piece here for the second half of this race. Jeffrey Vickery losing a couple of spots to Fleming and Patrick McQuaid. New colors there for the muffler man in that 77, but pretty much from the lead back to around the 15th position, all these guys have now got themselves into ride mode following the 23.
Yeah, I want to see this happen for right up until that first set of green flag pit stops, and even after then, you know, I want to see them go. I'm predicting probably the guys that are most coordinated here. So that would be Lawrence, Hubker, and DJ Daniels now part of that team as well, I believe. So, look, those guys are probably going to have control when they get to the first round of pit stops. I think right now, Jeremy Richmond's strategy is I'm going to push DJ Daniels as hard and as fast as I can and run him off of his pit lane numbers. He needs to save a lot of fuel. If he's sitting here in front of me, he can't save that fuel. So he's just shoving him as hard as he can.
Right now, you've got Rebel Racing and JKR Motorsports car 1-2. Each one of them have a couple of teammates right behind them. You've got then Lawrence and Hubka in 3rd and 4th. Then you've got Kerfan and Brown in 5th and 6th. So you got 50% of your top 6 with JKR and 50% of your top 6 with Rebel. The question is, though, does DJ Daniel try and move up and allow Lawrence and Hubka to try and make a move to make it 1-2-3? Does maybe Richmond jump up there and his teammates try and help push him to the front, or is it too early to try and do something like that right now?
It's really too early, and you need a lot more support than that. You've got to time the run. It can be done, but it has to be
spinner. That, I believe, was Joshua Billiter in the 8. He has hit the inside retaining wall in the back straightaway. No caution, however.
Yeah, it was the single car spinning. That one was odd. That one was really, really odd.
He got turned by somebody. I couldn't tell who the car was that was behind him at the time.
Oh no, Josh has come down a lane. Basically, he thought he was clear. He's come down a lane on a car that was already there. So Josh just come across on the in-game chat and said, "I apologize. That one was on me."
The reason that the caution did not come out, that car was never fully spun until it was down below the double yellow line, and iRacing will not read a spin like that down below the racing surface as something that would bring out a caution. So tough break there for Billiter, who will probably have to come to pit lane here. I think he's actually hitting pit lane right now, and
yeah, he is.
have to repair that damage. That's going to lose him at least one lap here, and he'll have to rely on potentially a caution coming out to give him the free pass.
Yeah, more than that, he's going to have to rely on a lot to get him back in contention, because if he gets the lucky dog pitting, he's going to be right at the tail end. The good option here for him is that patience is going to be his ally, and when you come to a super speedway and you're putting yourself in these bad positions like this, you know, patience, you just got to preach, you just got to sit there, you got to stick with it. You can't give up. Super speedways, anything can and will happen. The fact that we've gone caution-free this long into the race is a really good sign. I have a feeling back at the last super speedway race of the season, there was a lot more cautions than this already, and a lot of the drivers were getting frustrated with each other. There was a lot of bickering back and forth. Everyone seems to have settled themselves down. Everyone knows what their goals are at this point in time, so that's really good to see.
Well, last season at Talladega, whoa, caught the apron. Aaron Brown again? Yeah, he's been having a lot of difficulty, it seems. That car has had 2 left sides down below that W line a couple of times, and unfortunately, he's going to just stay low, let these guys on by him, but man, that car has been a handful for Aaron Brown here in the first stages of this race, and that's going to loosen the lead pack, but nice job of keeping that thing from spinning down the apron and being out of everybody's way with that loss of momentum.
Yeah, first caution of the night right there, and it wasn't, so that says skill to all involved. Yeah, look, it's disappointing, obviously, that it's happened, but at the end of the day, you've got to recognize it for what it was, and that was skill, so great job by Aaron there.
Continues to lose some spots here. Mike Tellier, Cam Caldwell, Tom Bourne going to go around him. We'll see if he can latch on to that trio just ahead of Matthew Fleming. Now back to the 16th position is the 95, our winner.
He just said his monitor blacked out. It was a hardware failure.
Oh, well, that would make sense. And boy, a wherewithal there with a blackout taking place like that to get it down to the apron. That's some heads-up driving.
Yeah, he's done it there. Yeah, absolutely. And everyone, like I said, when you're in a position like that, it's so tough for all the guys that are around you as well, and everyone has responded with responsibility there. Everyone has put the weight of their own races squarely on their own shoulders, but they've also looked out for all of their competitors as well. So that's literally, you can't ask more. That's perfect. That's exactly what we wanted to see.
Absolutely. Well, DJ Daniel out in front still. Last season, he finished 5th here at Talladega and led 30 laps. If he continues to stay out here in this clean air, he may be surpassing that here this season. And I've been noticing that all of a sudden the Rebel Racing cars, they are starting to all comprise up almost the entirety of the top 10. You've got Daniel with the lead, you've got Lawrence in 2nd, Hupke in 3rd, and then you got a trio of them back behind in 8th, 9th, and 10th. That's Ron Gartner, Kyle Gartner, and Christopher Woodard.
Yeah, they're all starting to group up. I think they've got some plans. I think we're starting to get really close to that pit window. Alternatively, what can happen as well is that you get to a point whereby you can't save another lap's worth of fuel, so there's no point actually saving that extra fuel. All you gotta do is shorten your pit stop by minimal amounts that aren't gonna matter whatsoever. So I have a feeling that a few of these guys have started to do that. They've got to their fuel save numbers, and now they're drifting their way forwards because they wanna be there and they want to assist. They want to get involved in the battling. And this pack has separated itself a fair way from the other packs as well. So if the pack's behind, they want to go after this, they've got to get organized now. Otherwise, they're just going to continue to drop off the back end of the lead pack as well. And they just get further and further and further distant. And in actuality, I think they've missed the window already.
Right now, the entire top 14 is made up of Chevrolet bow ties, all comprised of JKR Motorsports, Rebel Racing, Sizemore Motorsports, and Radius Racing. You know, when we start to get to those green flag pit stops, I mean, if you're one of the bigger teams, do you maybe come down with just your team cars, separate yourself from everybody else? If you're one of the smaller groups there, the 2 or 3 car teams, do you pick one of the bigger teams to come down with?
Yes. You need to, as one of the smaller teams, you've got to attach yourself to somebody. You can't just freely give up all of that support that you potentially would have. Otherwise, it's not an option. You know, you've got to be there. You can't throw away your race just because you're a part of a smaller team. You got to look. There's always going to be openings. One of the benefits of being on a smaller team, though, is that you don't actually have a set strategy. You can be flexible. If your strategy opens itself up and says, hey, I can pit with this bunch, or hey, I can go a little bit longer and see what develops, you can just hang around, you can be patient. The instant that you commit to a strategy, you're stuck with that strategy. Whilst ever you're flexible, anything can happen.
One thing that we know about super speedways is not necessarily where you start, it's where you finish. Give a call to Noah Owens, who started this race outside of the top 21st, and the first 20 laps he's been able to work his way solidly up inside of the top 10. 7th place is where he currently runs, right behind his teammate Brock Whitehead in that 83, who's had some great runs in the last couple of weeks.
There's a few cars in the field that have had some phenomenal runs. Like Trey Whitehead, all power to him. He hasn't had the finishes, but he's been quick. He's been there. He's been in and around the numbers that he sort of needs to hit. The next goal for him has got to be to turn that corner. It's so difficult, though, in a lot of these series, is because you're just pushing yourself so damn hard. You're trying to force a result. Sometimes that's the worst possible thing you can do. You need to loosen up on the steering wheel a little. You got to relax. You got to settle in, because if you're not there and you're not giving yourself the opportunity to be there to have a strong finish, then you're never going to be able to grab those points that you need. I think Trey Whitehead has got to focus on his tail end of the season. He's had a few opportunities here. If he can just get 1 or 2 good points nights in, that's it. He's going to be locked into those playoff contentions. And ultimately, I want to see some consistency out of him. I want to see him good on the long runs. I think he's just a little bit too aggressive. He'll get there, though. He's coming on strong.
About to go a quarter of the way through this race without seeing a caution flag just yet.
Seth, did you just jinx it?
I'm poking
Seth,
the
what did
bear.
you say?
I know. Anyway, it's not been without incident, however. Ended up having Patrick Jenks with an unscheduled pit stop. Billiter spin on the back straightaway. Herberton was slow over in turn 1. All 3 of those drivers currently off the lead lap. 25 drivers on the lead lap. And I think at the drop of the green flag, I said the entire field was only separated by about 3 seconds. Now you can really spread it out. 15.5 seconds separate all the drivers on the lead lap. Got a bunch of stragglers back here. Matthew Fleming, Gene Cato, and Zachary Woods. They have all lost the draft. These are guys that, much like Dylan Herberton, who would love to be the lucky dog driver, they are hoping and praying for a caution to come out.
Honestly, you say super speedway to me, and I my immediate response is early caution first, followed by green flag pit stops to the end. That's normally what you expect when you come to one of these tracks. It's going to be good racing. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be... I used to hate these kinds of races. Now I like them because I'm more of a fan of the big strategy, the chess pieces moving around, and that's what really this is. It's difficult to pick up the skill. There is skill involved in this. Yes, there is some luck. There is a lot more luck than there normally would be. There's a lot less ability to show your skill. That's why it feels a lot more like luck, but there is definitely things that you can do here to really push yourself forward. Fuel saving is number 1. Timing your runs is number 2. going with the right cars is number 3. Being in the right lane at the right time is number 4. So there's a lot of different skills that you can showcase here. And these guys, I just heard a few guys on the radio saying, hey, we're coming down pit road soon.
We'll be looking for that here, see who's going to have the hands out the window to come to pit lane. And depending on how many cars we end up have come in the first wave, it could be like air traffic control. Now, there's a lot of space for drivers to be able to get onto pit road, but different drivers are going to have different areas where they're going to want to slow the cars down. There's also an area there on pit road where you have your commitment line that you have to be to the left of to be committed to pit road, but that's not where the scoring starts as far as pit road speed.
JKR's coming.
That's going to be Jeremy Richmond and company. There's a second line, a second cone, a couple of feet further down where pit road speed actually starts. DJ Daniels going to lead them onto pit road, and this is just about everybody from that lead pack.
I get the feeling that DJ Daniels wanted to cover them off. I don't know if he could have gone or he was, he was one of those drivers that had options there, but I get the feeling that he wants to keep the JKR Motorsports guys in his rearview mirror. This is a guy who is worried, I think. I think he's being chased. I think that there is a little bit of a, did I make the right call, hanging over his shoulder. A little bird that's sitting there that's saying, hey, I think you may have messed up here. I think you should have stuck around a little bit longer. I think he's out to prove something tonight, Seth.
A couple of drivers with some mistakes after getting onto pit road. Saw Noah Owens get into the side of Ron Gardner. There was another car. I couldn't make out who it was, but looked like they may have overshot their pit box and had to back up. That's going to cost them valuable time, as here comes Cam Caldwell, Mike Taylor, a couple of teammates out of Radius Racing. Tom Bourne now over with Sky Motorsports. That trio is going to hit pit lane after staying out the extra lap.
Now, for those guys, it's super important that they can still get to pit road and still be contained within that lead pack, because if they can do that, they've now got the flexibility. That's exactly what I was talking about. Have a look at how strung out these guys are now, though. You're going to see, this is where, if this goes green to the end, this is where the race is going to be decided. Because I think fuel saving for the next 3 or 4 laps has got to go out the window. You've got to push as hard as you can, because you need... If you're in the lead, you want to run away from the guys behind you. If you're in one of these second or third 2-car bunches, you want to suck it up all the way onto that lead bunch. You've got to push to make sure that you happen. Then settle back into your fuel numbers. That throws your fuel numbers out. The math gets complex, Seth. This is why I like super speedway racing.
This is going to be interesting, too, because that first group came down pit lane on lap 25's completion. That second group came down on 26. If, by some miracle, we're able to go green to the end, and that is the furthest these guys could go, they've got 2 more pit stops in their future, and they're going to be very close to the number there when they come around to take the checkered flag.
And that's where this section of the race is so important as well, because you can't push too hard. You still need to be able to save enough fuel. Look at them now. They're starting to group back up. Everyone's starting to get sucked back in together. This is perfect. This is what a fair few of these guys want to do. If there's now some of these guys that have pushed too hard for that one lap, they've driven that fuel off, they cannot get that back. They're going to have to cycle themselves to the rear end of this group and sit there for 10 laps to get that fuel back. That is how hard it is to save the right amount of fuel and push. You cannot get back fuel that you've already burned.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe the car that I saw that overshot his pit stall may have been Noah Owens in the 88, who was having a good run up inside the top 10. He's dropped back to 20th place now. And you notice that the landscape of the top 5 has changed. It was Richmond pushing DJ Daniel for the first segment before the pit stops. Now Daniel has a teammate in Christopher Lawrence as his wingman. Richmond now finds himself in a Rebel Racing sandwich with Hubka on his back bumper.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. These guys are going to settle themselves down. Make sure that if they're looking for their teammates, that they're getting hooked up with them. Now, we've burned through the patience sector of the race. I don't think we're going to get a caution from here. I think that this is where things settle down. If I'm looking for cars, though, that I want to be around and want to be supported by, I'm looking for that 24. Where is Woodard? Woodard's buried a long way back. This is very uncharacteristic of him in a super speedway.
Right now, running with Kyle Gartner. They're in 11th and 12th place. A couple of drivers that actually the strategy worked out for them, staying out that extra lap, were Mike Tellier, Cam Caldwell, and Tom Bourne. They're now up inside of the top 10, trying to latch on to the top 7 there. I'm wondering what the advantage was. Was it they were able to attack pit road entry a lot more aggressively than everybody else because they didn't have to worry about 4, 5, 6 cars blocking their lanes coming to that commitment line?
Yeah, more than likely. More than likely. They could see everything that was going on. The other thing is that they would have saved enough fuel earlier on, and the instant that everyone filed towards that pit road entry, they were able to just go... They didn't have to save. They knew that the fuel number that they had to get around and get to, so they pushed as hard as they possibly could. Everyone that would have been trying to... that was ahead of them would have gone, oh, well, I don't know where my fuel... Oh, here we go! Here's the lead! No, sorry, never mind. That's a lap car. I got too excited.
39, Ron Gartner, who did sustain some damage, as I mentioned, contact between himself and Noah Owens. They were trying to get into their pit stalls there under the green flag pit stop round.
Is the next car, and he's taken to the apron to make sure that he's way away from these guys. One guy swings to the top lane in the back of this pack. They can't afford to get too shuffled out here. They need to get back in that draft or they're going to lose this pack.
That's the Whiteheads, Trey in the 33 and Brock in the 83, trying to get around the 39. You're right. Staying up there that long, they may have just lost touch with the top 5.
But they're still close enough for now, but they need to push very, very hard. That move there has cost them way more than it gained them.
And on board here with Trey Whitehead, looking ahead to the top 5. A couple of other drivers that appear to have had some issues on pit lane, and it has cost them greatly. We ended up having the 2 of Gene Cato with a very lengthy pit stop. Not necessarily certain. He might have actually gotten pegged by the speeding police. He's now fallen a lap down as a result. And Clifford Corvo in the 38. We know that he ended up having some early contact with the back of Trey Whitehead's machine at the initial start of this race. He had a rather slow pit stop as well. So currently we have 6 drivers off the lead lap. Ron Gardner, who we just saw getting lapped, he is in the free pass position.
Yeah, you're going to see... There's a couple other cars that are going to slowly cycle their way back to this lead group. You're going to see Matthew Fleming. He's currently without a drafting support. The best thing that Zachary Wood can possibly do is actually slow down and link up with him, potentially, because that'll keep them on the lead lap for a fair bit longer. Alternatively, you've also got the 20th place machine, which is Noah Owens. So you guys are all about 5 seconds separated from each other, and they're probably only about 10 seconds up the road from the lead pack as well.
Here's the third group, if you will, 11th place on back with Kyle Gartner, Christopher Woodard. They've picked up Jeffrey Vickery, Aaron Brown, Matthew Rodriguez, and the lap machine of Gene Cato. Right now, they are not tracking anywhere near as close as the top 5 in terms of speed. I'm going to check and see about them trying to reel in maybe Caldwell, Tellier, and Bourne in terms of lap times this time around. Caldwell, who is leading that second group, 50.8. 50.1 there for Kyle Gartner. So yeah, they're starting to chip away at group number 2, but neither the second nor the third group are starting to reel in this first group who have picked the Whiteheads back up. Trey and Brock have gotten back up to this lead pack, so now 7 drivers all single file. They're going to produce a lot more speed and kind of take 8th place on back out of a shot without the aid of a caution of getting back up here in the hunt for the race lead.
Yeah, but there's a few things yet to play themselves out as well. Remember that fuel number. These guys are going to make sure that they get there now. That is... I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. There's a lot of guys... Whilst they were in that single pack, every car had a lot less work to do, right? So the engines, they could run them at a lot lower RPM. The throttle pickup, that was a lot lower. All of those sorts of numbers. Now with the strategy game and the chess game that's being played out on track, I think you've got to add an extra stop in here, South. I don't think it's going to be as simple as 2 stops to home from here.
With you on that as well, especially for DJ Daniel. I mean, he has spent a good portion of this race out in front. He's been creating the draft for all the drivers behind him. Subsequently, he is using the most fuel. And so that's going to, when he comes to pit road, maybe even take guys like Lawrence and Hubka away from the number that they probably could stretch it to in order to stay with their Rebel Racing teammate. There's the 27 of Herberton again up on the top. He was just on pit lane again. Actually, correction, no, that's not Herberton. That's actually Matthew Fleming in the 4 who's about to go a lap down. Herberton still sits on pit road in the 27. He's now lost 6 laps and runs in the 28th position. So if you're somebody back here, like say Mike Tellier, Tom Bourne, Cam Caldwell, you know you can't get up to this lead pack. Is there anything with the next round of green flag pit stops you can do to make up the what is now 4-second difference between you and this lead pack?
Yeah, save a lot of fuel. That is one of the best things that you possibly can. If you sit, so the 3 guys that are sitting in this next pack between Caldwell, Tellier, and Board, they're close enough that on that final, if this goes green to the end, which is right now, honestly, there's a very good chance it can go green at the end. I would be expecting them to be in a really good position. If they can just be patient here, they just got to work together. Ultimately, it's probably in their best interest to hook up with the pack behind them, but the pack behind them is way too far back. There's nothing going on back there. If they can pick up Matthew Fleming, who's just ahead of them, and he hasn't got engine damage, Matthew Fleming's still up to speed, this helps them out. They really want Fleming to maintain the draft to the bunch that's ahead of him, but also start offering the draft to the guys behind him. And it's close. It's very, very close. He might be able to do it.
See Zachary Woods in the 60 just up ahead. He's the next driver that the leaders would catch to put off the lead lap. And then after him, the 88 of Noah Owens. We are getting closer to halfway here through the BackFire 250 presented by JKR Motorsports, and want to thank all the sponsors here of the league tonight, including Hubka Real Estate. Like them on Facebook at Erica Hubka Realtor. Blackgate Security, be sure to follow them on Facebook as well. JKR Motorsports, like them on Facebook and Instagram. Auto Ventures LLC, based in Hudsonville, Michigan, premier used car, truck, and SUV dealer with the cleanest selection and the lowest prices. Visit them at www.avcarsales.com to learn more. And Junior's Mobile Detailing, based in Marion, North Carolina. Simply the best. Find them on Facebook and schedule your detail today. And there is Noah Owens in the 88 now going a lap down. And if we continue to stay under the green flag, there's going to be more and more drivers falling off the lead lap, more and more drivers fighting for that free pass position. 28 drivers still scored in this race, but only 19 of them now on the lead lap.
And you know what would be interesting, Seth, is to actually watch that battle for the Lucky Dog potentially decide this race. Because those guys are going to want to be super aggressive because they're fighting for that Lucky Dog. If the worst should happen, they need to be in that spot to give themselves an opportunity. But have a look at what Zachary Woods and Noah Owens are actually doing here. They've fallen slightly back off the lead pack, but they're still close enough that they're actually offering draft support to the next bunch. This is exactly what Caldwell, Tellier, and Bourne wanted. This is their opportunity here.
They get a big run here on both those cars. Wood's going to jump to the top side there on Noah Owens, who you can see has that right front damage. Oh, Mike Tellier onto the apron as everybody checked up in front of him. Still down on the apron, 3 wide with Tom Bourne around the top. That is not what that trio of cars needed to have happen.
No, they wanted to single file out there. There was a lot of missing communication in that pack. They've lost a lot of momentum, a lot of time now back to the leaders. They got it down to about 3 seconds, 3.5 seconds. That is now blown out to 4.
Zach Woods might be able to tuck in line here behind Tom Bourne. So those couple of Camrys will then lead the Camaros of Cam Caldwell and Mike Tellier. But yeah, it's going to take them a long time to get lined back up, get the momentum back again, to be able to start chipping away at the top 7. And now you've got Toyotas on the bottom and Chevys on the top. That's going to hurt these guys even more. As a matter of fact, it may be what Kyle Gartner, Christopher Woodard and company want. They might be able to get up here and make it about a 10, 11 car pack.
That's what I was just thinking. I was just looking at that next pack just in behind these guys, and the first thought that popped to mind was they lost a lot of momentum. This could actually see these guys all link up. If these guys link up, they have a good opportunity here. They have a really, really good opportunity to hunt down this lead pack, but they're going to have to push every single lap of the race. The leaders are going. The leaders, I think, are the most fuel-compromised cars in their situation, so there's opportunities here still.
On board with Christopher Woodard, I wanted to see if indeed he's doing what we saw him do at Daytona, and that is the ability to lock up those bumpers. There you see it, not much room between the rear bumper of Kyle Gartner and the front bumper of Christopher Woodard. He is pushing that 49. That's allowing that group of 4 to make good lap times and reel in that group up ahead of them.
And the gap to the group ahead of them is now under a second. Noah Owens is half a second ahead. So the gaps are closing. And there was draft support available there to the guys that are at the front of this pack there for a little bit. So therefore they start shoving each other back up. I think they're going to hook back up with Bourne.
Back up here inside of the top 7. That 5 of Chris Hupka, as we mentioned, missing the last couple of weeks. And I posed the question to you back near the beginning of this race about, what Hupka's strategy is now to be able to get himself up there points-wise into the playoffs. And you said, for the most part, pretty much can't gain those points back. So how sweet would it be, though, for him then to come back, put that car in victory lane, even if it may not necessarily put him up in a playoff position here in the upcoming 4 races?
I think he's out here just having a fair bit of fun, Seth. Like, championship put aside, the guy's been away for a couple of weeks, been potentially in the hospital, been unable to race, you know. So the best possible thing that he can do is get out here and just have a blast. Just enjoy himself. And Super Speedway Racing might, as far as I'm aware, might just be up Chris Hopker's alley in terms of what he considers fun. So that's all I want to say. I'm just glad to see him back in the field, back out, back on the sim rig and having fun.
See him back off a little bit there, off of Jeremy Richmond. Might be trying to generate a run here possibly, but even if he steps out, I'm not necessarily certain that the drivers behind him would be willing to go with him. You've got a JKR Motorsports car in Alexander Kerfan just behind him, and then you've got the Sizemore Motorsports cars of Trey Whitehead and Brock Whitehead. And I kind of get the feeling, at least for the moment, that those could be the two X-Factor drivers. The Sizemore Motorsports could be the X-Factor in this if it stays the way it is. Because let's say that JKR Motorsports, they want to make a run here on Rebel Racing. You said they're going to need the numbers. Well, they've got two cars back there in the Whiteheads. I mean, would there be some diplomacy going on either with Rebel Racing to those two drivers or with JKR to those two drivers of, hey, if moves are made, work with us, please?
I think if a move gets made, the Whiteheads will just go with it. The reason that they'll do that is right now they've got nothing to lose. They're still attached to this lead pack, but they're sitting at the back end of it. So if they just wait for the moves to happen, follow in the moves, and help the moves happen, they automatically improve their own standing. So yeah, I think they just send it with whoever.
Now, last season at Talladega, Ryan Sizemore for Sizemore Motorsports finished second place to the eventual winner, Matthew Robinson. So we know that that team as a whole very good when it comes to the super speedways. You just saw the 77 of Patrick McQuaid go a lap down. So now he's in the free pass position. 18 cars on the lead lap, and a little bit of a reprieve now for our race leaders. It's going to be a while before they catch up to some more traffic. You've got about 3 cars lined up nose to tail here with David Modespa, Mike Sibanovsky, as well as I believe that's the lap machine of Patrick Jenks. Ryan Sizemore back there as well. Oh, he's actually lost that group of cars. He's picked up a lap machine. I believe that's Clifford Corbeau in the 38. But they're running right now roughly about 19, 20 seconds ahead of the race leader. So it's going to be about another 5, 6, 7 laps before they'd get reeled in by this lead group.
I don't think it's going to happen. Put it out in your mind. Sorry, excuse me. So I'm just having a look at the third group at this point in time. They're actually trying to really get organized and hooked up. They can smell blood in the water. Tom Bourne is about 2.5 seconds off the front nose of Kyle Gardner. If they can take a second out of that, all of a sudden they've got draft support, they start shoving themselves up. Christopher Woodard was just trying to communicate with everyone in behind him saying, hey guys, we have to go. We have to go. We don't really have a choice. We need to get going. Can you please hook up with me? So I think this third group is going to start making moves here very shortly.
You saw right there. Whoa, that was a little close as Jeffrey Vickery was almost into the back of Woodard. Woodard now again pushing his teammate Gartner through the trial. Well, that's a little sketchy because that's an area of the racetrack where the driver in front is turning the car partially to the left. And if you get into the driver just at the wrong moment, that can send the race car around there on that front straightaway area. So Woodard having to be very careful, very gingerly pushing the back bumper of the 39 ahead of him. And now it looks like Gartner, not sure why he went up high like he did there. That almost gave Woodard the opportunity to be able to make a pass on him.
I think he was looking for the draft from McQuaid, because this is McQuaid they've just caught up to. Now, you said about the tri-oval. If they can remain hooked up through the tri-oval through pure skill, and Christopher Woodard's one of the drivers who can do that, then there's an opportunity. That's where they're going to make the most amount of time going forward. So that's something that they're probably looking at. I'm actually just... Keep your eyes on Cam Caldwell here. All of a sudden, he's starting to close in on Brock Whitehead. So, if, in actuality, I don't think this third pack's closing at all. I think they're holding station in relation to... They might be making a little bit of time towards the leaders, but this second pack is the pack that's actually on the move.
Now, that last time by, they ran 0.3 of a second faster than the 7 drivers up ahead of them, and they are now less than 3 seconds off of the lead pack. 2 seconds if you do the difference from Cam Caldwell's front bumper to the back bumper of the 83 of Brock Whitehead. So these guys might be able to get up there, close up to that lead pack, and have all of the top 10 up in the lead group here. Bear in mind, though, we end up seeing most of our race leaders come down pit road at that lap 25. Well, we are a couple of laps away from halfway through, so expect to see drivers calling that they're coming to pit lane in the next few laps.
And this second group have been pushing so hard to try and reconnect back up to the leaders. I have a feeling they're the ones that are going to have to come first. If they do come early, they're screwed in terms of overall race fuel saving. There's a lot more fuel that they have to save than they really can have available to them. They have to make it to lap 50. That is their marker. They can do that, they're okay. Anything that's a bonus after that is a big, big bonus. You know, you want to work together with those sorts of guys. So keep your eyes on what happens here.
Remember that threesome there of Caldwell, Tellier, and Bourne, they came to pit road a lap after pretty much the entirety of the field did. So they would have, for at least for Tellier and Bourne, I would assume they would have at least one lap still in the tank. Caldwell, who's been kind of the lead car for them, he may be down to only about half a lap better than these other guys, since he's been using up quite a bit of fuel, cutting the draft for his teammate Mike Tellier and Tom Bourne there in the 54 car as well. But looking at the telemetry, they've now cut it down to a second and a half, less than a second and a half to the tail end of this lead group. So I don't know, they may actually catch this lead pack before the pit stops even take place.
They're in draft range now, so yeah, they will actually catch this pack. They've done it. They've done everything they needed to do.
Coming around to complete the 49th lap. Lap 50 going to go on the board, so we are closing in on halfway. And I'm looking around right now at how spread out the field is. We've had most of these guys up here in the lead pack and tend to ride behind each other. I'm trying to formulate in my mind what could be something that could bring out a caution in terms of an incident. Now, right now, I'm not seeing it. Obviously, when we get closer towards the end of this race, they'll get racy, but right now, I'm just not seeing a caution in our near future.
Pit stops. Pit stops might cause it because you're going to end up with cars that are all spread out again. And the reason that it might cause it is actually because as the cars start to try and get brought back up together, they're going to be sitting with cars that they haven't been next to the entire race. So there's this next round of pit stops could be that caution break that a lot of the drivers are looking for.
Good call there. Is probably the next time around, I would assume.
Woodard's spinning in. Woodard's in.
Daniel. So is Kyle Gartner in the 39. So a couple of teammates going to hit pit lane here. Remember, Gartner was leading that, well, actually Woodard and Gartner, I think, actually swapped off halfway through that run of leading that third pack, and I would assume this next time by, we're going to be seeing DJ Daniel down pit road. Question is, who else is going to be coming with him? I would think Lawrence, Hubka, teammates there, they'd be coming down with him, but what about Richmond? What about Kerfan? Would they be able to stretch it an extra lap?
My question mark is actually over the three cars that have just joined this lead group. They've abandoned them. They've abandoned them. Cam Caldwell, Mike Tellier are going to the high line. They've just caught this lead pack at this point in time, and they do not want to be attached to them. These guys were fuel saving. They weren't racing.
That's why they went to the top, because everybody else, they were coming to pit lane.
So these guys caught up to the lead pack whilst fuel saving. That entire lead pack has come. If these guys, the pace that they have been running, if they can keep hooked up the way that they are, this is, for me, 2 laps from now, these guys could be your leaders. And Matthew Rodriguez has got another lap as well. He'll be on his own, though. No, he'll have Zachary Woods with him. He will have Zachary Woods with him.
We saw him come down the lap after on the first cycle of pit stops, but he was quite a ways back behind his teammate Tom Bourne, as well as Cam Caldwell and Mike Tellier. So we'll see how this cycles around here. Let's see if these guys stay out an extra lap here, or if they're going to come down this time.
No,
and nope, they're going to be pitting now. So they still have that 1 lap advantage over the rest of the field, and I'll tell you what, whoa, as Caldwell locks the tires up there.
I don't know, he might have got a penalty there. That was close.
We'll have to wait and see about that one. And I'll tell you what, I mean, pit road is just as much of a monster in super speedway racing as the racetrack itself, in the fact that there's just so many things to think about. You've got to think about your braking zone in relation to everybody else around you. Everybody's kind of got to figure out which lane they want to be in coming down pit road so that they can get into their stall cleanly. And then also with leaving pit road, if you've got a pit stall that's towards the back of pit lane, if you're up towards the front, then you've actually just got to mash the throttle and get back to that commitment line. But all that time, it can be very distracting, and you may not be able to pay attention to your tachometer and get hit with said speeding penalty. That's certainly something you don't want to have happen, especially with the fact that we've remained under the green flag since the start of this race.
Take a look at this bunch that was in the lead prior to that round of pit stops. You've got yourself DJ Daniel and Christopher Lawrence are on the low line. You've got Alexander Kerfan, and you've got who was the other car that was with him? Is that Hubcar? No, it's not Hubcar.
No, that's Jeremy Richmond up on the top there with Kerfan.
Yeah, Jeremy Richmond and Kerfan. They did not want to work together. And look at this, Bourne has come out ahead of these guys. Bourne had a phenomenal stop, and he's actually come out ahead. The rest of that pack that was with him, though, Mike Tellier, Cam Caldwell, I think Caldwell got a penalty. I honestly believe that Caldwell got a penalty, and I'm waiting to see when Mike Tellier pops out.
Mike Tellier
They
also
both got a penalty.
got hit with a penalty. That was the drafting help that Tom Bourne was working with this entire race. Now all of a sudden, he's a lone Toyota up here, surrounded by Chevrolets. Now he does have David Modespaw there in the 1, but he's a lap machine right now. First car 1 lap down in the 17th position.
That's not good. We don't want to set any of these sorts of precedents. This is bad for Tom Bourne. He's now lost a couple of guys that were working with him. He's situated himself in a really strong spot, though. And if you have a look at who he's working with, he recognizes he does not want to be partnered with these JKR Motorsports guys. He's not working with them. So there is blood in the water, I think, a little bit there. And then Motorsports in the middle of this as a lap machine. That plays into this as well. You've got so many narratives that are about to unfold.
Remember when DJ Daniel moved over to Rebel Racing, it was Tom Bourne who then moved over to Sky Motorsports. So you have to wonder if maybe he wouldn't be willing to work with the Rebel Racing cars here, as he'll stay on the bottom. DJ Daniel going to go to the top, and it's going to be the Toyotas there with Modespaw and Bourne. Bourne might be able to go to the point here with the help of a car that's just now gotten himself back on the tail end of the lead lap.
Yeah, David Modespaw, like I said, just having a lap car in the mix. Yeah.
Just see Lawrence moving around. My goodness.
Have a look at this next pack in behind these guys. You've got Christopher Woodard, you've got Kyle Gardner, Jeffrey Vickery, Aaron Brown. All 4 of those cars are absolutely moving. These guys have got a good chance of catching on here. I think that there's an opportunity that's going to develop for these guys in the next couple laps.
Brock Whitehead there, looking ahead to Trey Whitehead. They've now moved up to 2nd and 3rd place. So throw them into the mix potentially for this race win. We've got a total of 8 drivers on the lead lap up in this lead group. Here's the second pack. It's got 4 cars that have basically been together for the last 20 to 30 laps. Woodard now going to take the point. Vickery, Aaron Brown, Kyle Gardner. But you can see they're on the same straightaway. Right now, about 3 seconds off the back bumper of the lead group, and they are starting to close. The more movement that takes place up here in this lead pack, the more the opportunity is going to be there for that second pack to reel them in.
Yeah, so I think these guys' story of the race is about to unfold. If you also have a look at the back end of this group, Kyle Gardner, he's struggling to stick with these guys. Woodard has lost him as somebody that's being able to be pushed. He's got to suck himself all the way back up onto these guys. They've got 3.5 seconds that they've got to make up. If they can get that margin down to 1.5, all of a sudden they'll sack back up onto that lead pack. Now, it's got to come down to Kyle Gardner. He has to get hooked up with these guys, because if he can give a shove onto Aaron Brown, Aaron will give that shove onto Jeff Vickery, who will give that shove onto Chris Woodard. These 4 cars have to work together if they've got to have a shot.
I got a question here, just based off of what we saw when Tom Bourne went to the race.
It's a slow car.
I'm wondering, did the Rebel Racing cars of Daniel, Lawrence, and Hubka purposely jump up to the top to go to the back of this pack to make sure that they were going to be within the fuel number to make it the rest of the way on the final pit stop?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, they were playing fuel numbers over everything else. So look, there's a few opportunities that'll open themselves up for these guys. They're playing the numbers game. They're playing the patience game. If they commit to going as hard and as fast as they can for as long as they can, that's not going to work here. This race and the fuel numbers are just right such that you have to save fuel. There is a minimum of three stops within this race. There may be 4 if you cannot save that fuel, and that 4th stop is going to be deadly to your race pace. You've got to commit. You've just got to go with the fuel number of everyone around you. You've got to drive yourself into that window. We are in the most important fuel stint of the race now, because if these guys cannot get to lap 75, they are done for. They need to ideally get to lap 76 in terms of fuel, because if they can do that, they're going to be better than everyone else around them on this final run. They can have a shorter pit stop if they want to. I wouldn't be, personally. I would be taking the full fuel that it's available to me, because that, again, gives me options in terms of going as hard and as fast as I possibly can.
Well, it took Tom Bourne about 55 laps to work his way to the front from the 25th starting position, but he has done so. We got to bear in mind, though, his super speedway luck this season hasn't been all that great. In the season opener, he finished dead last, so obviously hoping that his luck turns around here, as he's another driver looking for his first career win here in the BackFire Sim Racing League Cup Series. Whoa! Brock Whitehead really low there towards the apron off of turn 4. That would have slowed his speed. Jeremy Richmond having to check up for him. That's something you got to keep an eye on here as we get closer to the end of this race. Drivers potentially having to lift for other drivers. That's where contact can be made and a caution possibly ensuing.
Yeah, have a look at where DJ Daniels has shuffled himself out. The Whitehead's all of a sudden coming to the fore. This is because these are, again, talk about those fuel numbers. These are drivers that are setting themselves up. If you actually have a look at the JKR, the 9 cars, right? The cars with that 9 as the leading number on their racing numbers. These guys are trying to save fuel. They drifted to the back. They saved enough fuel, but then they've got to slowly shuffle themselves forward, which is what the Rebel Racing guys are doing right now. They've gone back. They've saved some fuel. They've recognized they need to get back a modicum of control within this pack. They need to make sure that they're positioned in the right spot at the right time, and that's what they're trying to do now.
Got a lap machine that's now latched onto this lead group. Last year's runner-up finisher from Talladega, Ryan Sizemore. Now remember, he's a teammate to the 33 and the 83. If he can get up here, that'd be 3 Sizemore Motorsports cars that could work together. So, you know, for the Whiteheads, they just gained another ally.
Yeah, they did. An unwitting ally. The only issue for them is that this is an ally that's off a fuel sequence with them. So the most important thing that everyone here can do is to try and work together for as long as they possibly can. If they've got a car in this group that's a lap down, what they do is they use and they burn that car out. They control the pace of the pack using that car. If he has to go out and he has to push as hard as he possibly can and burn up everyone else's fuel, that's a win for them.
Jay Daniel and Chris Hubka jumping up to the top there. I think they were trying to follow Christopher Lawrence, who's charged back up to the 5th position, but weren't able to stick with him. They've now got Kerfan in front of them and the lap machine of Ryan Sizemore.
Look at the pace Bourne's setting.
Yeah, he's very happy to let that one car be out in front. And this is helping David Modespa in a way as well, because yeah, he's on the tail end lead lap, but every car that they catch is a position he's picking up. Since he got to the front of this lead group, he's still on the lead lap, and he's picked up 3 more spots, from 18th now up to 16th, and starting to close in on more. Cam Caldwell, Mike Tellier just up ahead.
And these guys aren't worried about it, right? Motorsport does not care. The thing that I'm really impressed about with this lead pack is you can actually see none of these guys care that he's a lap machine. None of these guys, normally what happens is you get a sense of ego within iRacing. Guys are like, oh, well, you're not on the lead lap, then you don't matter to me. You need to run around at the back. No, they don't care. It doesn't matter who's leading this pack. And ultimately, the reason that Bourne wants to sit in behind him is because he wants to be towards the front end of this pack, but he doesn't want to be leading. He doesn't want to have that fuel burn be his question mark. Right? He wants to push. Oh, there's the caution! That'll be it!
Into Ryan Sizemore, up into the outside wall. Caution is out for the first time today. Everybody fortunately spread out towards the second pack, so they were able to avoid him. There's Sizemore in the 3 down to the inside wall. Caution is out for the first time. They were starting to get racing. There was a high line forming with 4 or 5 cars up there. I'm almost wondering if maybe bumpers weren't lined up quite correctly, because there was a lot of movement there in the middle of the straightaway for the 9.
Yeah, so what happened was the 9 was, I was just having a look back at it, the 9 still had his wheel kinked slightly to the left when the 3 come up and made contact. It was still trying to shuffle around. And ultimately, the threes just made contact at the wrong period of time. They both recognized that. They both also automatically on the radios just said, "Oh, look, super speedway racing as well." It's just poor contact, poor timing on the contact. That happens.
Well, that caution is going to change the landscape of this race, I guarantee you, because we're now into the second half. They are starting to be able to eye that checkered flag. They're all going to be wadded up here for this upcoming restart. David Modespa, since he was on the lead lap when the caution came out, he doesn't have to rely on a lucky dog. It's going to be interesting to see who the lucky dog does go to, because Ryan Sizemore was the first car one lap down, but he was involved in the incident, so if he is ineligible for the lucky dog, it would then go to the 4 of Matthew Fleming.
Interesting. So there's a few things to sort of sit down here and analyze. Obviously, everyone is going to come to pit road. The reason that they're coming to pit road is they want to shorten off that final pit stop. There'll be a few guys taking tires here. Why do you take tires at a super speedway, you might ask? Oh my word. I just witnessed probably some of the worst driving behavior I think I've ever seen. The 3 machine just basically nearly rammed into Christopher Lawrence. Those are the 2 guys that caused the caution. What? That's silly. That is very, very silly. I'd say that's just somebody that's missed where the pace car is. Anyway, so you might want to take tires. Restart. Your restart is going to be a lot better. You're going to have better grip on you, a lot less wheel spin, which is going to potentially prevent further cautions. Especially if you're Christopher Lawrence, you're definitely going to take tires here. A lot of sideways action on those tires overheats them, a lot of wear on him, so he definitely needs a new set. But it's just overall traction, the ability, it gives you options, it gives you flexibility. These cars, remember, they're doing nearly 200 mile an hour, and it does not matter what type of car you are. Formula 1 cars wear quite heavily on their tires at that speed, so when we're in a type of car that wears tires very aggressively and sees a lot of tire fall off, you're always going to see wear. So it's just about making sure that you've got that consistent level of grip and you know what's underneath you when you take tires at a super speedway.
Now, you said everybody was going to come to pit road. I think there's going to be a few drivers that we may not see on pit lane here under this caution period, maybe with the mentality that we're going to see another caution very, very soon. I think you're going to see guys like Zachary Woods, Patrick McQuaid, Gene Cato. I think these are going to be guys that are going to be more than willing to take the wave around, run the risk that they can get that lap back with the aid of a caution, and then come to pit road under that upcoming yellow flag. So we'll see if that's going to work out for them or not. This gives us an opportunity to kind of catch our breath, gives these drivers an opportunity to catch their breath. Let's find out if that indeed is the strategy. Let's talk with tonight's in-race reporter, Zach Woods. Zach, Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Hey, I got you.
So it's looking like here you might be thinking about taking the wave around strategy, maybe with the thought that we haven't seen our last caution. Is that the case?
Yeah, I think so. I think the play right now is to just get out here with all these wave rounds and hope we can run it dry. I don't know why so many leaders pitted here, because it doesn't look like they can make it to the end from here. So if the wave
makes their last stop super short. That's what they're doing it for, because if they don't come to pit road at this point in time, it's 12 laps worth of fuel that they've got to add extra of everyone else, which that's the race right there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I think some of these wave around guys, like, we're going to take our wave and then dive right on pit road, or run it dry and hope we can make it to the end.
So obviously we saw there nearly 60 laps under the green flag. Had a couple of incidents, but nothing that brought out a caution flag. So how difficult is it to strategize for a race where the field gets so strung out like that?
It's really hard. I mean, this draft package is kind of frustrating. You can't really, if you're too slow, there's no hope for you to get caught back up in the draft. So we just make friends with who's around us as the field gets separated and try to listen to each other. We've done a pretty good job today. I think a lot of us have shown patience out here, and that's the key for Talladega.
I just want to touch on that real quickly too, because we noticed when we came into the session, only 5 Camrys out there in the field here tonight, 3 out of Spin Move and 2 out of Sky Motorsports. So I mean, there's a lot of Chevrolets. Was there any diplomacy talking with any of the Chevrolet teams, opportunity to work with them here to be able to make alliances and make forward progress?
Yeah, nothing really formal. It's the good thing for me is that I've been in the league now for, well, since we've started. So you kind of know like who you can race with well across teams, and that kind of comes naturally here at tracks like this. Like I know there's some guys on JKR and Rebel that I race with pretty well, so those things kind of just come up all by themselves.
Well, we saw back at Pocono, you came from 7 laps down to finish 7th place, so we know you're the comeback king, got that lap back, and we'll see if you can be able to work your way up there into the top 10. Best of luck.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
So it looks like 3 drivers in total took the wave around. Woods, McQuaid, and Gene Cato. That is going to have us with 20 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green. Jeremy Richmond trying to do something that's very difficult to super speedways. Go coast to coast, pole to win for his first career victory. He's got Curfan to his inside, and row 2 finds 9, I believe, or actually, correction, that's the 33 of Trey Whitehead, DJ Daniel to his top side, and Brock Whitehead completes the top 5. Things getting rather spaced out there with drivers moving left, drivers moving right as we get ready to take the green. Green flag back in the air here at Talladega.
Yeah, so drivers just trying to shuffle themselves out. Just keep it steady. You know, pick your spot. Who are you grouping up with? A couple drivers here that this really aids. Mike Tellier, Cam Caldwell. Those guys were out of it. You cross them off the list with the pit lane penalty that they received. They've got an opportunity here, but they're going to be nervous when it comes to this final stop of the night too, because they've already made an error on pit road. This is going to decide who's actually able to win this race in this pit stop. You know, that pit stop is going to be the be-all, end-all of this race. So, look, when you've made one mistake, it makes you nervous on pit road. When it's going to come down the next time through pit road is going to be the be-all, end-all, it's even worse.
Going to be closing on 30 laps to go. We've yet to see the big one here at Talladega, so I want to make a point of noticing the drivers that took the opportunity under this caution of utilizing their one and only faster pair. Brock Whitehead in the 83, Christopher Lawrence in the 9, David Modespaw in the 1. Those drivers on the lead lap used their faster pairs. Patrick McQuaid, I believe he used his faster pair under his last green flag pit stop, so he already has used his up, as have Ryan Sizemore, Joshua Billiter, Clifford Corbeau, Noah Owens, Patrick Jenks, and Ron Gartner. Those drivers are running 22nd through 27th right now, all off the lead lap.
Yeah, so a few drivers, I mean, they're hoping for another caution here, and it may come their way. Ultimately, they want to make sure that the caution comes after about 7 laps from now, and the reason that they want that to happen is because they want everybody else to go back into the pit stop and complete their final stop under caution. That means they're always going to get a wave around in that sort of instance, because you'd be crazy not to take your final stop under caution.
Well, some of these guys back here, like Vickery, Woodard, and Kyle Gartner, just before that caution came out, they were all working together and reeling in the lead pack. We know they've got very speedy machines. Keep an eye on them here in the closing stages as they're now up in the lead pack.
The amount of fuel that they're saving, though. Woodard, for me, from what I've seen of the 2 super speedway races from this season, has been very aggressive in terms of pushing. He normally wants to shove that pack as hard as he possibly can. He's one of the guys right now who's just really settled out. There's a huge space between him and the cars both ahead and the cars behind. That says to me he is max saving. He is looking to save the maximum amount of fuel he possibly can. Oh, here comes some moves to the outside, though.
David Modespaw, I believe, in the 1, and he has the 22 of Mike Sibanovsky helping him. Sibanovsky off the lead lap, but Modespaw is one of the drivers that was on the lead lap when the caution came out, albeit just ahead of the race leaders, and now he's trying to make some forward progress. That caution was a big break for him as well, as he restarted in the 13th position. I want to talk about drivers that are saving fuel hard. Look how far back Caldwell, Tellier, and Bourne are. Obviously, they are in major fuel save mode right now with the time they've lost since the green flag dropped.
I think they're expecting the big one, Seth. You said it. You said that the big one was coming. We haven't seen it so far this evening. I think they think the exact same thing as well. The reason that they're sitting so far back is because they want to let it unfold and they want to give themselves space. We've seen them push hard enough to close down a massive gap. Yeah, they can fuel save from this position, but they need to be a lot closer than that to actually be able to save the fuel that they need to.
Jeremy Richmond showing the way there in that new paint scheme, the Phillips Golf Academy out of Austin, Texas. right ahead of his teammate Alexander Kerfan. Now, remember that we ended up having a 1-2 finish with JKR Motorsports back at Daytona. That was Brock Silvati over Aaron Brown. Now you've got another couple of JKR Motorsports cars 1 and 2 with Richmond and Kerfan.
Yeah, so it'll be about pack control from here on out, but at the same time, that fuel saving number, that is the more important part. If you can settle down, you can hit those numbers, you can hit those targets, you're going to be in so much more of a better position than everybody else. And remember, what I said, we're so close. We're in the fuel window now within 2 laps. Some of these guys will be able to make it home from there. So if you can hit your fuel number and then you're at the window point and you know that you've saved enough fuel and you're not going to be able to save another lap, you then all of a sudden put the hammer down. You start pushing as hard as you can. I think that the guys that are at the front here, the JKR Motorsports guys, they've recognized they've got to control this race. They've said, yes, fuel is a concern. We still have to make one stop. The size of that stop, though, is all that's changing. Everyone will have to make that one stop. So, what's the difference? We sit back in the pack and let somebody else control the race, or we get up here and we control it ourselves? And they've said, hey, we want control of this race.
You've got movement there in the middle of the lead pack. All the Rebel Racing Chevrolet cars jumped up to the top. They now migrate their way back to the bottom. Chris Hubka, the lone man out. We'll see if the 24 of Woodard's going to let him in. No, he can't. He's got too much of a toe to the back of Vickery, and just like that, it's going to be Hubka drifting to the back. He might be able to find a spot here in front of Kyle Gartner, and indeed he will.
So that's it. Now settle back in, settle it all down, group it up, start to get your cars together. This is the most important time of the race to get your cars together. Up until now, it's just about organizing for this period of the race. Now it matters, because if you've got your cars all lined up and you have your fuel number, you have your pit number, and you get ready for it, get set for it, and go earlier than everyone else. Yes, it could be the undercut, but the overcut could also be.
Got a yellow. Noah Owens has wrecked over in turn 3. Ron Gartner collected as well.
Everyone will pit now. This is it. The final stop is going to be out of the way. There's going to be enough fuel in everyone's tanks to get home. There's going to be probably a last of the tires thrown on just for a little bit of good luck, and then it's go to the end. This all of a sudden just exploded into an amazing race.
Both of those drivers had already used their faster pairs. They were both running multiple laps down to the leaders, and oh wow. Well, we know the later the race goes, the more violent the wrecks are going to be. We had a car up and over there going into turn 3. Some miscommunication in terms of space there. 39 trying to come down in front of the 88, and wild ride up nearly into the catch fence for Ron Gartner.
And that's why it's so important to get your spotting right at a super speedway race. Ultimately, a lot of the automatic spotters, they all have deficiencies. There's nothing that you can do about that. That's just automatic spotters and the way that they work. If you can get a real life, you can get a physical spotter, they can tell you when people are going to be building those runs, how far back they are. There's a reason the guys in real life don't use sensors and those sorts of things. The technology's not there. It's not good enough. They need to be able to have somebody tell them, hey, you're going to have a run coming to your outside. I recommend you link up with it. Hey, you're going to have a run coming to your inside. It's probably time to just let that one go. They're going to be there in 3, 2, 1. They're there now because then you're prepared for it. You're aware of what's going to be happening. Oh, Daniels! DJ Daniel, I think that's the wrong move. He's just thrown away track position at the end of this race. If there's multiple cautions back to back, he's going to look like an absolute god with this pit call. If there's not, he is completely screwed.
The issue that he might have, though, is we had 2 JKR Motorsports cars up front when that caution came out. I mean, if everybody cycles out the way they came to pit road, he's not going to have any teammates behind him for the upcoming restart, even though he may have the good track position.
Yeah, but if there's another wreck here... Oh, okay, so what's Daniel's going to need to get home? I think he needs... I think it's as small as one more caution. If there is one more caution, he may be able to get home. If there's 2 more cautions, he's guaranteed to. And he has track position control. But what's the gain? What's the loss here? He would have lost... potentially 0 positions, right? He's gained 2 positions out of this. There's no gain there. I think this is suicide from DJ Daniels.
I'll tell you who definitely gained with this caution. That's those drivers that took that wave around there under the first yellow. Patrick McQuaid, Gene Cato, Zachary Woods. They're now all scored on the lead lap. They get to come down pit road, take on a fresh set of tires, fill that tank up with fuel. They're good to go now. Have a shot of maybe getting up there inside of the top 10, maybe the top 5 before this race is over. Drivers that spent the first half of this race off the lead lap.
Yeah, a whole bunch of drivers have got opportunities here. It's now opportunity central. So, look, anything can happen from here, Seth. Anything can happen.
And more than likely, knowing Talladega, anything will happen. You see DJ Daniel down there on the apron. Now, he's obviously saving fuel, not relying on the 33 degrees of banking here in the corners to feed more fuel into the tank's intake. Another car down there running on the apron, that's Aaron Brown in the 95. I think he might be just giving some room to some drivers up above him. Patrick Jenks in the 94, Clifford Corbeau in the 38, who did actually get a piece of that incident with Ron Gartner and Noah Owens, so it was a 3-car incident over there into turn 3. And DJ Daniel will indeed have Jeremy Richmond alongside of him. Kerfan, Trey Whitehead, and Jeffrey Vickery are going to be the top 5 when we go back green with what is going to be less than 25 laps to go here at Talladega.
DJ's going to have to say, look, this could be the miracle play of the day. But the issue for him is that every car behind him is gold on fuel. He cannot control the pace. If he is going to make it to the end from here, he's just going to let these guys go. And that's why I think it was a suicidal move, because the amount of fuel that he was required to save is too much. It's way too much, DJ. Don't throw it away like this, son.
DJ Daniel now driving for Rebel Racing, so he's being a rebel in terms of his fuel strategy. And this is going to be a doozy of a restart, because this may be the point now where we're going to see a lot more take and a lot less give. Free pass car into that yellow was Ryan Sizemore, so 21 drivers will be on the lead lap when we go back green. 25 drivers on the racetrack, 27 still scored in the race, although Noah Owens, Ron Gartner still on pit road. Major repairs continuing to be done to those machines, and their days are more than likely over as they had already used their fast repairs. Gives us the opportunity here with about half a lap of pacing left to once again shout out all the sponsors here for BackFire Sim Racing as you are tuned in to the conclusion of this evening's BackFire 250 presented by JKR Motorsports. We ran the first half of this race clean and green, no caution flags, didn't see our first yellow till around lap 60. Since then, we've had 2 caution flags, got a couple of torn up race cars as a result, but for the most part, everybody that took the green flag to start this race still has their car in one piece, still has a shot at this victory, and there's still plenty of time for lots to happen and a Cinderella story to possibly be in the works.
A lot of these guys were led so much early on during this race. Look, I mean, you know, it's an opportunity now. There's lots of opportunities in the mix. The pace car's going to pull off. I've got my eyes back in the pack. You know what? I want to see Vickery do it. I've seen Christopher Woodard win. I've seen Aaron Brown be very strong so far this season. The guys I want to see win are probably Whitehead and Vickery.
About Aaron Brown there, a runner-up finisher at Daytona. Had that great save when he had some technical problems, got it down the apron out of everybody's way. He's back up here with a shot, restart in the 5th position. Green flag back in the air, 24 laps to go at Talladega. All the teammates are kind of all kitty corner to each other. How long is it going to take for them to form up?
Well, let's see. It's got to settle down. That high lane settled up really quickly. Have a look at, was it Kerfan? Yeah, it was No, it was Richmond that ducked down to that low lane very, very quickly. They wanted to cut off DJ Daniel's support from everybody else. They want to strand him here. Ultimately, what they should be doing is link up behind DJ Daniel and shove him as hard and as fast as you possibly can. He's got 2 options. He either surrenders and says, I haven't got enough fuel to end this race, or he goes with them and he runs out. He is in a world of hurt unless he gets another caution. He gets another caution, he's off the hook. So you want to shove him and you want to drive him away from his fuel numbers. And that's why you can see Richmond all over that bumper. There is a story that is about to be resolved between these 2 guys!
Oh, no! DJ Daniel hard to the wall. Vickery is collected. The big one has struck at Talladega. 3, 4, 5 cars torn up into the entrance of turn 1.
I can see the red mist. descending over Jeremy Richmond in that incident, for sure. And DJ Daniels, well, you thought he was annoyed before. Now he's mad.
Caution out for the third time today. Tom Moore.
Oh, Richmond
with a
just
lot of
left.
damage.
No, wait, Richmond towed?
I believe he did, and he was running. Richmond was running over there in turn 2. Tom Moore's got front end damage. Dean Cato was
Oh,
involved.
no, his engine went.
The 83 of Brock Whitehead all torn up. And Brock
Yeah, his
Whitehead
engine-
had
Richmond's
already
engine
used
blew.
his fast repair.
Richmond's engine blew.
Richmond still has the fast repair available to him, but the question is he going to be able to get that fast repair in time to stay on the lead lap? I don't think he is.
No, I think he's going to lose it.
Fan's going to inherit the lead after a massive wreck that started just around at the start-finish line and finished into the entrance of turn 1. Let's go back and take a look at it. Happened up at the very front of the field in the race lead.
Oh, man. Oh, you thought there was drama before now. Like... Oh, my word.
Talked about all the moving pieces coming into this race, different drivers with different teams. Other drivers I saw collected up in that one included Mike Tellier in the 97, or I'm sorry, the 47. Zach Woods in the 60. There's Modespaw getting a piece. Matthew Fleming in the 4. Zibanovsky in the 22. Drivers didn't already have their fast repair used. They certainly do now. And there's still going to be about 18, 19 laps still left to go when we get the green flag. I mean, it's not like this thing is anywhere close to being done. There's still a long ways to go in this race.
My word, they're still going. This is an argument that's going on in the chat. They are annoyed with each other. The two teams. You thought that, again, blood in the water. There was drama when Daniels opted to take a mid-season move between the two teams, right? That's obviously he's unhappy. He looked unhappy. He didn't look like he wanted to work with those guys last week out, and I don't think he was really happy with the situation that played out. He took the opportunity to make the mid-season move. He took an opportunity to take an aggressive strategy here tonight. That is the DJ Daniels that we've come to know and love. He does things differently. He doesn't think in the same manner as these guys. Now, if those guys are on the same team, I don't think DJ Daniel would have done anything different because he's always looking for a way to get ahead, right? You got to make an opportunity, but at the same time, you can't just dump a guy that's in front of you. You can't make contact at an awkward period of the track. Like, I think there's going to be some investigation midweek. That is such a weird issue. Ultimately, the end result of it is that Richmond has removed himself from contention in the race when he's had such a strong race. And I think he needed to be aware of that. I think he needed to be aware that there was still a long period left in this race and that he didn't have to make the move so aggressively and so early on. And that'll probably be what the admins have a look at.
And this has taken a couple of other drivers out of contention as well. Christopher Lawrence was collected up in that. He had already used his fast repair, so a very extended stay for him. He'll obviously be off the pace. And same deal for the 83 of Brock Whitehead, who had spent most of this day running up inside the top 10, up inside the top 7, really. Was up with that lead pack in that long 60-lap green flag stint. And his day is pretty much over as well. Fortunate for some of those guys that had the fast repair still, and how about some of these guys that did a great job getting through the wreck? Patrick McQuaid and Matthew Rodriguez worked their way around the top side with all the damaged cars to drivers left. They're going to be restarting this race in 6th and 7th position.
I was just thinking about Matt Rodriguez. He's actually got a huge amount of damage to the rear end of his bumper. Somebody said that they apologized that they got into his rear. Obviously just didn't see they were trying to create. You got to remember, when you're on the brakes, for those of you guys who don't drive race cars, don't drive simulators, the tires, they can only do one of a few different things. They only have so much grip. So as soon as you're on the brakes, the car don't turn as well, because you can't change the direction of the car with some of that grip that you're using for braking. That's been applied to braking. So ultimately, I'd say somebody behind him is just trying to dodge the wreck as best as they can, which means that they aren't slowing up. And sometimes that's just what happens. But you've also got to arrest your speed at the same time. So, look, I mean, especially at super speedways, dodging wrecks at super speedways is one of the hardest things you will ever come across in a racing career. It's near impossible. The only way to really dodge it is to be out ahead of it, and well, that happened between P1 P2, so nobody was ahead of it.
Restart coming up here with less than 20 to go. It will be 19 laps remaining when Alexander Kerfan gets us back underway. He's got teammate Aaron Brown to his outside, Trey Whitehead, Christopher Woodard, and Chris Hubka. They're going to be the top 5. Bear in mind, the 99 that Kerfan is driving was the car that Matthew Robinson put in victory lane here at Talladega 1 season ago. Now, as I look at my leaderboard, I'm seeing a lot of 1s in the faster pair column, so it's actually going to be a lot easier. I'll flip the script and say who's still got their faster pair left. Aaron Brown, Alexander Kerfan, Trey Whitehead, Christopher Woodard, Chris Hupka, the top 5. They've still got their faster pair, as do Matthew Rodriguez and Gene Cato, who will restart 7th and 8th. That's it. Everybody else, with what we've seen in the last 20 laps, they have used their faster pair. They've got what they've got now, and they've just got to bring their car, or what remains of their race cars, back home to that checkered flag.
Well, there's 28 cars in the field here tonight. Obviously, I think we've lost We've lost Dylan Herberton. Everyone else is still out there and still kicking. So 27 cars are available. I think 20 cars got into that wreck. To be perfectly honest with you, just the way that that Daniels bounced back off the wall, he bounced straight back in the path of the pack, and everyone's scrambling to try and dodge him, which has led to more wrecks. That's just how that all works and how it all happens. So, look, to be perfectly honest, that was the big one. You mentioned it. Why did you have to say something, Seth? I blame you.
Because it's Talladega. What
Okay, all right, never mind. I don't blame you. You're clear.
If it's
conscience.
it's Talladega, there's 2 things you can be sure of. There's going to be a lot of pack racing, and there's going to be a big one. Green flag back in the air. 19 laps officially left here in the BackFire 250, as Kerfan has his teammate Aaron Brown tucked in line behind him. Ooh, things got rather staggered back there around the 96 of Jeffrey Vickery. They all keep the fenders on and pointed in the right direction as things get spread out here up at the front. You've got about 2 car lengths back to Trey Whitehead. He's trying to pick up Christopher Woodard, and then behind them you've got Hubka and Patrick McQuaid trying to catch up.
So there's some ruling stuff that's just coming out in the chat as well. Can't lane change before the start-finish line. So I have a feeling that those guys, they were close. They were very, very close. Keep your eyes... Again, what was I saying earlier on about keeping your eyes on Christopher Woodard? Look at where he is now. He's sneaking back into the picture. Everyone's good on fuel. Nobody needs to save a drop of fuel from here to the end of the race. So it's going to be about who the strong pushers are. If Whitehead recognizes how strong Christopher Woodard is behind him, and these 2 guys get hooked up, stay hooked up, I think that Whitehead has got an opportunity here. He has to recognize that, though. He's got to be patient. He's got to time his run. Everyone's going to single file out, though. This says we're probably going to get another 10 laps distance.
The landscape of this race has really changed as well, because 2 guys who have dominated the race up to this point, led the most laps between the 2 of them, DJ Daniel and Jeremy Richmond. For the moment, they're not in the picture. Richmond is currently 2 laps down in the 23rd spot. You see DJ Daniel back there trying to push Ryan Sizemore, but he's currently in the 10th position, not up here at the front in that clean air. So having to try and fight his way back up to the front is the former race leader.
Yeah. Down, got to pick off positions. Patience is the key now, because you've got to wait, and you've got to wait for a good enough run. If you go after a run and that run hasn't got any momentum behind it, the worst possible thing you can do is go with that run. And there's a lot of guys right now that are just watching. They can't commit to a run. A lot of guys are aware that they cannot do that. They've got to be patient here. So, look, to be perfectly honest with you, Seth, I expect to see single file out for a good period of time here whilst guys attempt to try and build that run. There's going to be a few guys that are going to try and build that run. They need to be hooked up probably with an ally that they can trust, and I just don't see enough cars out there that have that circumstance set up for them.
Right now, I'm seeing some teammates nose to tail, but I'm not seeing very many
lap cars are
behind
coming.
them that if they were to jump out, that they would then go with them.
So there's a couple cars just up ahead that are actually massively damaged here, Seth. You've got the 39 of Ron Gardner, and then you've got the 83 of Brock Whitehead, who are both running a mile and a half off the pace. Their engines are going to expire at some point. It won't be now. Both of them running on the apron, so that clears them. Then the next set of cars that are running quite slow is Clifford Corvo and Patrick Jenks. These guys don't actually look too bad, but they're unattached from draft support. If we go green all the way around to these guys getting lapped again, there could be runs that are built off the back end of these cars, so keep your eyes out for these slower cars.
Ron Gartner just picked up a spot moments ago, moving up to 26th on the running order. As Scott pointed out, Dylan Herbertson out of the race. Noah Owens joined him about 2 laps ago, so those 2 drivers will not make it to the conclusion of this race. 15 laps left to go on the board. Kerfan continues to show the way. You've got his teammate Aaron Brown in 2nd. You've got some teammates lined up in 4th and 5th with Woodard and Hubka, and then you've got some more teammates lined up back in 9th and 10th. That's where Cam Caldwell and Mike Tellier currently run.
Yeah, so keep your... Those guys towards the tail end, Caldwell, Tellier, Bourne, these guys have got an opportunity because they've been working together. DJ Daniels is up in and around them as well. He's starting to fight his way through the packs. There's a few guys that are actually grouped up in the middle to the back of this pack, and I have a feeling that there's a few guys that wouldn't mind having a shot at taking down these JKR guys.
Has the victory so far this season at the only super speedway race, the season opener at Daytona. And in last season, they ended up taking 2 of the 3, with Robinson winning the season opener at Daytona. The Talladega race, Rebel Racing got a win in the 2nd Daytona race, courtesy of Christopher Lawrence, who is another driver that will not be finding victory lane here today. Mired all the way back in the 16th position, way off the pace. Tom Bourne, David Modespaw, they're off the pace. Jeffrey Vickery, Zachary Woods. I mean, these are guys now, they're out there on the lead lap running because they're hoping that something happens up here in the closing stages and they can pick the bones, pick up those last-minute spots before the checkered flag.
They're going to keep running as long as their engines are in the cars and their engines are functioning. Yeah, 100%. It's about minimizing your losses. Ultimately, I don't think we're done. I think there's still a lot more blood in the water. You've got DJ Daniels who's still out there. The JKR guys are probably going to be still annoyed with him and the way that all of that's transpired. So if he gets back up and around them, I expect there to be some aggressive moves, some blocks thrown. The guys are going to be shuffling their cars around. If that happens again, there's going to be a lot of points that are still in play for these guys.
Definitely a lot of points still up for grabs with the fact that you've still got 19 cars on the lead lap as they currently run. There's Ron Gartner again off the pace, letting the leaders on by as he's down on the apron. 13, closing on 12 laps away from the conclusion of this race. Looking ahead to next week when these drivers are going to be getting ready for what's going to be Patriotic Week. We're going to see them with the red, white, and blue on their machines as we'll be heading to the D-shaped 1.5 miles of Charlotte Motor Speedway. Looking forward to that one, and you have to wonder, you know, the hurt feelings that we've already seen displayed here at Talladega, if anything's going to carry over to that race. We're still not done. I mean, there's still, as you point out, a lot that can happen here. 2.66 miles at Talladega, nearly 50 seconds to get around this racetrack. There's still a long ways to go.
Yep. 10 laps still plus in the books that are going to be written here yet. So head down, keep it steady, look for your opportunity. Again, just read the pack. What's the pack doing? Woodard is trying to shove these front guys out a long way so that he can start to build that run as well. Ultimately, what he wants to do is get somebody who's going to support him in behind him. Then he wants to shove them as far away from him as he possibly can, roll out of it a little bit, settle back in, build a run, and get somebody to go with him. Once he does that, I think he's got a great shot here.
I know that still it's early and things could still happen, but I got to give a shout out to Patrick McQuaid. What a comeback for him today. Stuck a lap down early on in this race, was one of those drivers that elected to take the wave around when the caution came out just after they had been to pit road. Got through the big one over there in turn 1, up in the 6th position, but you've got to wonder there for the 77 car, where do his allegiances lie? Would he work with Rebel Racing? He's got a couple of them up ahead of him in Woodard or Hubka. Or would he maybe work with a Toyota in Matthew Rodriguez that is just behind him? Rodriguez does not have his teammate Tom Bourne anywhere up here. So is it kind of your friends are where you find them situation for the 77 and the 57?
Yep. Any can be a friend to him, and that's the most important part. So, who knows? Who knows who his friends are going to be within this race as well. There's going to be, again, opportunities. It's about just recognizing where the strongest cars are at the right period of time. Because it's a super speedway, right? It's not as simple as just going, I've just got to follow this guy through the pack. It's about going, is his run going to eventuate in something? We're now under 10 laps to go. We're still single filed out. We know that these guys are good on fuel. Give it another 2 or 3 laps, and the runs are going to start coming, especially guys that are at the tail end of this pack. They've got to find somewhere to go. DJ Daniels sitting in 10th. He won't be happy with that. He wants more.
I know, obviously, when a run happens, if you're going to make forward progress, it's in your best interest to go with that run. But as mentioned on that restart, only, 7 drivers are still left with faster pairs. They'll be willing to take the risks to make the moves. But if you're somebody back there that has already used the faster pair, how anxious are you to follow and possibly put yourself in danger?
I mean, you've got to make something. You're not a racing driver if you don't commit and you don't try and move and you don't try and make something happen as well, so.
Cars up on the top. Patrick Jenks and Clifford Corbeau, they'll get out of the way. At a total of 13 drivers up in this lead pack with a shot of winning here today. Out of these drivers, you have 3 of them that have gone to victory lane this season. Brown, who runs in 2nd, Woodard, who runs in 4th, and Cam Caldwell back in the 9th position. So the odds are very much in favor of us continuing on the streak of 6 races and 6 different drivers going to victory lane. Even more likely, the streak of 6 different drivers getting their first career win here in the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series.
Yeah, as well. So it's been a wild and wacky season. And you know what the best part is, Seth, that we're seeing so many different drivers win, is that it means that the strength of field is there. Anyone's got the potential to actually come through and show off enough talent to win a race. That's phenomenal. That says the strength of the field is right where a lot of these guys want it to be. The racing's close. That's why we're seeing so many cautions. That's why we're seeing so many issues over the last few weeks. It's just guys just sort of settling themselves down. It does take a few weeks when you're running in a new league with a new bunch of people. You got to learn to run those drivers. You got to learn how close you can be to a lot of those cars, and you got to learn, you know, how safe they need to be. Last week they did that. They learned a lot running at Michigan, I believe it was last week. There was a lot of learning that came out of that. Yeah, it was an amazing race. It was phenomenal. And now you got guys that are trying to set themselves up here at a super speedway. This is setting ourselves up for a phenomenal conclusion of this championship before we even get to the playoffs. And then once we do, all of a sudden they get thrown out the window and start again.
A lot of movement there around Woodard and Hubka is there on the back bumper of the 33 of Trey Whitehead. Really close there off of turn 4. And you have to wonder about the positioning of Talladega here. Being the 6th race of the season, the start of the second half of the regular season heading towards the playoffs. I mean, you'd have to think that for a lot of these guys, a good finish at Talladega, even a top 5, a top 10, could really help set the tone for them down the home stretches. We nearly just had a wreck in the 3rd position. Nice save there by Trey Whitehead in the 33.
Yeah, you can see Woodard starting to get aggressive. He wants to shove him forward. He wants to generate something. I said he's one of the best pushers in the field. I've watched him over the 2 super speedway races we've had so far this season. Now he's setting himself up. Now he wants to shove Whitehead somewhere, but Whitehead can't go anywhere at this point in time. The cars ahead of him, everything's not aligned quite yet. If Hopka can get attached to the rear end of these guys, I think they've got a shot. I think JKR will be dead in the water if that happens.
Oh, and he's going to hook the 33 up into the wall. We were on board with the 24 as it happened. Caution's going to come out here, closing in on 5 laps to go.
That is a big one, and I tell you what, all of those guys that were hanging around towards the tail end of the pack, there's another spot for them to sort of pick up, and all of a sudden it resets the field, it shuffles ourselves out, and the most important part is that you have JKR 1 and 2. They're going to be side by side on this final restart of the race, potentially, and that means that somebody else is going to have an opportunity in behind them. Did Daniels get a piece of that? Did a bunch of guys get a piece of that? There's a lot of stories that still haven't decided themselves here, Seth.
Look here with the replay. There's the contact made back down the track, and ooh, yeah, I think we'll go on board with him, but I think DJ Daniel might have just barely gotten a piece. As you see Whitehead through the infield grass, the smoke trailing behind his Chevrolet Camaro. A fortunate thing for him is he was one of those 7 drivers that still had a fast repair, so his day is not done yet. When we were riding on board there with Woodard, you just saw how the 33 was so
He dodged it.
unsettled.
He dodged, DJ Daniels dodged it on the front end. He got a hit on the rear end because Gene Cato that was in behind him couldn't see it. He was trying to dodge it. So look, I mean that's just part and part. That means Cato is dead because he's got a lot of damage to the front. It was a very heavy hit to the rear end of DJ Daniels. So DJ Daniels may be a little bit slower. That run may take a little bit longer to build up for him, but it will still build. He's still got a car.
On board with the 23, and you know we were watching there the 33 moving around so much. There are some drivers that are very comfortable with somebody being tucked right up to their back bumper and pushing them. Didn't look like Trey Whitehead was one of those drivers.
No, and the other thing is that throughout all of that, Woodard was pushing him extremely hard, and it was so close. And the guys haven't been like that so far today either. So the pushing's, you know, been relatively simple. It's been relatively straightforward. And the other problem that's really been settling itself out is that Woodard, I think, has been pushing him a little bit too aggressively in the corners. That's what really set that off and started all of that. So look, I mean, you know, it's whatever it is at the end of the day. Take whatever you want out of that. But Woodard's probably shoving just a little bit too hard. But he's got to if those guys want to win the race as well.
That caution is going to put the 22 of Mike Sibanovsky back on the lead lap. So 20 drivers will be in the lead pack with a shot of at least having maybe a decent finish depending on the final results of this race. I'd love to be a fly inside the car of the 95 of Aaron Brown because he's already got a victory this season at Nashville Super Speedway. At Daytona, he finished second place behind his teammate Brock Silvati. He's in the same situation here again at Talladega. This time it's Kerfan ahead of him. How aggressive are we going to see this 95 car? Because as we mentioned, 5 races, 5 different winners. Those 5 different winners would love to be the first multi-time winner on the season.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be important for Aaron Brown as well in particular. Like, at the end of the day, I think he wants to really stick the win on Alexander Kerfan, so there is teammate rivalries. This is where you really start to see what makes and breaks a team. Because if Kerfan and Brown work well together here, that gives really good rise to teammates working together all the way into the playoffs. We've obviously Jeremy Richmond unhappy with DJ Daniels. That's a completely and utterly separate story. So, look, we'll see what we can do here. This is going to be important for the tail end of the series and the story that these drivers are going to tell going into the playoffs. At what point do they become solo drivers, and how late do they remain a team?
Be interesting to see here as well if the lights might go out of top the pace car this time. I think with the number of laps allotted to us when that caution came out, we should be able to get back green at least within the regularly scheduled time. I don't think we're going to go into overtime just yet. We'll see how many laps we're going to actually have left to us here for an upcoming restart. It may be an in-scheduled green-white checkered if the lights go out this time. Let's see.
They do go out.
So there we go. 2-lap shootout if they make it back to the white flag here. If not, then we go into overtime.
Yeah, well, it's been an exciting race thus far, and I think it's going to continue. I don't know. These guys have been able to run clean for multiple laps at a time. About the only time we've seen a very quick caution was DJ Daniels and the 98 of Jeremy Richmond. So look, I mean, settle it down. Let's see what we can get happening. I'm interested to see where Woodard goes from here. This is Chris Hubka has just come back from illness with COVID-19. This would be a story if Hubka was able to get back onto the podium. This is exactly the kind of return to the league that he wants. You know what? I'm going to change who I want to win this race. I want it to be Hubka.
Look at the way they're stacked up here, too. You've got row 1 with JKR, row 2 with Rebel Racing, and on that last restart, as you pointed out, there was the warning that came over comms saying that you cannot lane change before the start-finish line, so both of these 2 rows are going to have to figure out how they're going to get themselves nose to tail at the quickest opportunity possible to either hold the other team at bay or be able to make a move on the team ahead of them. Then you've got all those wildcard spots back there with Matthew Rodriguez, the lone Toyota up here inside of the top 10. Well, actually, correction on that. Gene Cato now up in the 10th position. And also keep an eye, I mentioned with Patrick McQuaid that I didn't think he had any teammates up here. Well, the guy just behind him the 4 of Matthew Fleming. Those are actually teammates out of Get You Some Motorsports. So they could be up here in the hunt for this victory in the closing stages. There's a lot of things to watch here in this upcoming battle that's going to be just a tick over 5 miles in length.
Yeah, so look, I mean, this is it. It is time for tensions to boil over. You got a short tracks, the tensions start to boil. They also boil at the longest ones of the season too, the super speedways. Let's go, boys! Let's settle this. Woodard is chomping at that bit.
Every driver in the field has to channel their inner Woodard. It's time for push to come to shove to get your line going. Here we go into the tri-oval start-finish line all the way down here in the center of the tri-oval to turn 1. Those extra 100 feet could be a huge difference maker as Kerfan back through the gears. Brown looks to tuck up behind him. He will now let the 99 down in front. Perfectly done by those two. Now it's Hubka, the man left out, as Woodard moves to 3rd, McQuaid into 4th.
Yeah, the opportunity. Let's Paddy McQuaid. He's had a horrible last couple weeks this season. He has just about found every piece of bad luck you could possibly find. It's been attached to Paddy McQuaid. If he can come out here and win this thing, boy, wouldn't this get him started.
They were leaning on each other for around 11th, 12th place. Up at the front, though, Woodard is shoving Aaron Brown into the corners, trying to get him to pass his teammate. Will they make it back to the win? What a save by Aaron Brown as he was all sorts of loose through the center.
Oh! I thought for sure they were about to make contact and that was about to be Aaron Brown in the fence. No, it's not going to be the case. Look at McQuaid! Here comes McQuaid!
Big run as they stacked up 2nd, 3rd place on back. McQuaid's got Hubka, Fleming.
Here comes DJ Daniel!
With him. They are racing back to the checkered flag as they took the white. Can McQuaid get enough of a push? Here comes Woodard again on the inside as the JKR teammates out in front 1-2.
They're too far out. They're too far out. Woodard's got a duck. Yeah, he does. He's got DJ Daniels there with him. Go, DJ. You've got to stick with him. Could this be Woodard's 2nd win of the season?
Big push on the top. It's going to be Kerfan up to block. Here comes Brown back to the bottom. He's got Gene Cato. Woodard looks to cross the inside. Can't do it. Can he generate the run through the tri-oval? Nose to tail, top 2. Daniel slots into 3rd.
Yeah, Daniels, I think, has got this. Daniels is going to get wrecked.
Big wreck coming to the start-finish line. Woodard peaks low, but Kerfan's going to get his first win of the season. The 99 goes to victory lane at Talladega in back-to-back seasons.
What a race. Who's going to come home? Kyle Gartner gets 4th place out of that. Kyle Gartner. Mike Tellier grabs 5th. Matt Rodriguez 6th. Paddy McQuaid goes all the way back to 7th place after such a promising start to that final lap. Cam Caldwell, Gene Cato, Ryan Sizemore, David Motorsport, after being such a massive part about that middle period of the race whereby Tom Bourne was shoving him to keep him on the lead lap. He comes home on the lead lap in 11th. Matthew Fleming, Tom Bourne, Zachary Woods, Jeffrey Vickery, Chris Lawrence is 16th. Trey Whitehead's going to come home 17th. Mike Simonovsky 18th. DJ Daniels, after going for P3 and on the podium, barely finishes inside the top 20.
19th for him, Hubka in 20th. The 3 drivers that especially got pieces of that. Obviously Hubka and Daniel and finishing outside the top 15. I also saw Matthew Fleming got a big piece of it, but he was able to get back to the start-finish line in 12th place as Alexander Kerfan. I mean, think of the pressure coming into this season, filling in for the defending champion Matthew Robinson, who went to victory lane multiple times, won the championship. To fill those shoes, obviously a lot is expected of you, and delivers here today for his first career win in the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series.
Wow, what a phenomenal run for Alexander Kerfan. He was in a phenomenal spot for most of the race. He was sitting there, he was playing second fiddle to Jeremy Richmond. He was really being the teammate he needed to be. And everyone was sort of settling themselves out. JKR Motorsports, they dominate both of the super speedways on the season as well. You've got to remember, throw it back to the earlier one in the season. Brock Salvati comes home with the win. Look at that. That's phenomenal that they've had so much success here this season. And we're going to move forward next week. Next week has now got a lot more involved in it. Think about where we're going next week. Think about everything that's played itself out here tonight. and we're going to Charlotte. That's gonna be off.
Just saw so many cars involved there, sliding towards the start-finish line, doing everything they could to be that first one back to the start-finish line, pick up as many positions as possible. I thought it was just 3 or 4 cars involved. It was about maybe 7 or 8 cars. Patrick McQuaid got a piece. Cam Caldwell got a piece. There's Gene Cato involved. Kyle Gartner and Mike Tellier make contact with each other despite both finishing up inside of the top 5. There's Modest Boss sliding in. I'd say just about everybody from third on back got bits and pieces of the wreck. It was then basically just try and hold the wheel as straight as possible and get back to the start-finish line, get the spots you could.
That was just, yeah, look, poof, what a race. What a race. There was drama. Like, you don't get a race with that much drama and that much storytelling very often throughout the season, but we had it here tonight. We've had a whole big piece of it, and Jake Kerr's going to come out on top once again.
Fan with the victory. Woodard and Aaron Brown so close to getting their second wins on the season. Kyle Gartner, who was really good here last season, ended up finishing up inside of the top 5. Also ran well in the Daytona race earlier on this year, so he's obviously very good at the super speedways. Earlier there, Matthew Rodriguez in 6th. And then you've got guys back here like Patrick McQuaid, Gene Cato, Ryan Sizemore. They're going to get top 10s. These are guys that were a lap down by the time we got to the halfway point of this race. Took waiver rounds, got lucky dogs, and worked their way up through the carnage late to be able to pick up decent results after what could have been finishes outside the top 15. For some of them, finishes outside of the top 20. But then on the flip side, you've got drivers that were looking really good, and in the closing stages, their finishes do not reflect the runs they were having. Lawrence, 16th. Trey Whitehead in 17th. DJ Daniels, we mentioned, back there in 19th. And then as you go even further down, you've got Jeremy Richmond in the 22nd position, Brock Whitehead down in 26th. I mean, these are guys that we're naming off that spent most of the day, most of the first half, almost the first 3 quarters of this race up inside of the top 10. Most of them inside the top 5 as well.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of guys that just aren't going to get the finishes that they were after. I mean, look at Chris Obska. I thought for sure I wanted this guy to come out, do really well, finishes back in P20. I mean, that was a guy who had a shot at a win tonight. Tom Bourne had shots at wins. At the end of the day, David Motorsports grabbed a whole bunch of spots. That's a phenomenal finish for him. Patrick McQuaid had opportunities there. Matt Rodriguez, Mike Tellier, they get phenomenal finishes. So yeah, you can say there's a lot of guys that got poor finishes, didn't necessarily get the finishes they deserved, but at the same time, there's a bunch of guys that got a finish that they never were really in line for. So look, there's that as well.
Sometimes at Talladega, you have to be good. Sometimes you just have to be lucky. Let's talk to some of our top 3 finishers here tonight who were up there when it counted. Let's begin things with a guy who finished 2nd at Daytona in the season opener, finishes 3rd here today, was close to maybe picking up his 2nd win on the season. Let's talk with the driver, the number 95, Aaron Brown. Aaron, it's gotten Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yes, I do.
Wow, crazy finish here today at Talladega. Of course, being a super speedway, we would expect no less, but right there in the thick of it, trying to line up with your teammate. But I have to wonder, with finishing runner-up at Daytona season opener, did you have a move planned there on that final lap to maybe become the first multi-time winner on the season?
Yeah, I definitely did, but if it was just me and Alex, but down the back, they just had a huge run that I didn't expect, and my plan pretty much went out the window because I didn't have a good first from behind, and that outside lane was just moving. So it was pretty much just try and get anything I could at that point. And I mean, I'll take a 3rd again, but hopefully next week or some few weeks later, or pretty much any other time of the season, we'll pick up that 2nd one.
I mean, you got to talk about it. It's the story that was on our lips a lot of times tonight. I mean, DJ Daniels has shifted teams. Is there any rivalry between you guys at all? You know, I mean, obviously you're members of the same team, but he's got to do what's right for him at the end of the day, and you got to respect that as well.
I mean, well, I'm not. Me and him personally, we're not rivals, but we're also like.
You're acquaintances. You're not friends.
Yeah,
you're not
enemies. Yeah, pretty much. But the other team, I'm not sure what they were, what about them, but it's kind of iffy between me and them sometimes. Them sometimes. So them and DJ sometimes. I can't speak. But I mean, I don't fully personally know what about them, but about each and every one of them. I'm still learning about them and the rivalries and all that. It's still we're the second third of the season, but yeah, but still got more to learn, and we'll be probably know them by the end of the season.
Obviously, we ended up seeing a moment in this race that could have very well been the big one, where you ended up having, as we understood, some technical problems, had a black screen, had to get down to the apron. That was a tremendous save down the apron, being able to get out of everybody's way. But then after that, I mean, how difficult was it to kind of plan out strategy when you were separated from your JKR Motorsports teammates? I mean, we went 65 laps caution free.
Yeah, it was really, I had a teammate back there, Jeffrey. Jeffrey was back there, so I was just talking to Jeffrey. Just me and Jeffrey were gonna work together and pit together when we need it, and they were going to as well. But it ended up we all had to pit at the same time. So at that point, our goal was to just try and just push up there. And right before that caution came out, we were really doing that. Me and Woodard were pushing up there, but then the caution came out, which really saved us because there's definitely some moments there that we thought this was gonna go green all the way, and we were not gonna be able to catch back up. But we had some hope there, and then we got the yellow.
Well, Aaron, congratulations on another solid performance at another super speedway. Your numbers have been absolutely impeccable. I know that Nashville has super speedway in the name, even though it doesn't necessarily categorize as a super speedway. But if we count that, you've got a second, you've got a win, you've got a third in the super speedway races on the season. So congratulations on that. Best of luck into next week, the patriotic race at Charlotte. We're now going to give you the microphone and have you have the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout outs.
Gotta thank my teammates, Jimmy Richmond, Jeffrey Victory, Alex Griffin, and Patrick Jenks. Sadly, Brock couldn't make it today. He got stuck in some traffic trying to get home to make the race, so he wasn't able to. But gotta thank my sponsor, Serenity Sun Tanning. Gotta thank you guys for the broadcast. Gotta thank the admins for letting us come out here and race and organizing it. So gotta thank all the yeah, so
It's Aaron Brown, third place here tonight in the BackFire 250 presented by JKR Motorsports. Congratulations, Aaron. Best of luck next week at Charlotte.
yeah, thank you.
And another driver that was hoping to be the first one to be the first multi-time winner on the season finishes runner-up tonight, Christopher Woodard. Let's talk to him. Chris, it's Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yep, I gotcha.
And what a race you drove there in the closing stages. Got that big run out of turn 2. Edged ahead for a brief moment going into turn 3. But when you tried to make that move out of 4, it looked like your drafting help was gone. I mean, what else could you have done to at least get alongside the 99 or even edge him at the start-finish line?
It was pretty much, it was over once we came out of 4, and I really wasn't past Aaron at the time. And after we got to the straight, it was just, I lost all help after that, and it was just nothing I could do after that.
Look, Chris, a difficult night for you during the early phases of the race. I mean, talk to us about keeping that motivation going. You were shoving the guys way further back. Second or third group it was that you guys were involved in after that first round of pit stops. That was huge. You know, you had to get yourself back into the race, and the race was green flag for such an extended period of time. You did a phenomenal job. You're known as one of the best shovers in the league. Tonight, a few of those shoves just went a little bit wrong. How do you fix that self up, and how do you keep yourself motivated during the race?
Just keep doing my thing, and just eventually I'll get a win. And just shoving is just, I mean, it's part of racing, especially when it comes down to the last couple laps. Like, no one's going to give or take, so.
But we saw you go to victory lane in the first D-shaped oval mile and a half at Atlanta, getting towards the beginning of the season. We're going to be going to another D-shaped mile and a half track in Charlotte next week. So, what's the confidence level going into the patriotic race?
Oh, it's really high. Charlotte's probably one of my favorite tracks and probably one of my best tracks that I run. So it's high, and I have a good feeling that I'll finish top.
Well, Chris, congratulations on a great performance here tonight. P2 at the High Banks of Talladega. We're now going to give you the opportunity for some thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Yeah, I want to thank my team, everyone that's riding with us, and all the sponsors that we have within us. Hupka Real Estate Group, Blackgate Security Agency, Auto Ventures, JKR Motorsports, JRS Mobile Detailing, and Butt Kicker.
Well, Chris Woodard coming into tonight already had a 4th place finish in the season opener at Daytona. He betters that here tonight at Talladega with a 2nd place finish. Congratulations, Chris, and best of luck to you down the remainder of the home stretch here, looking towards the playoffs.
I appreciate it.
Let's go down to victory lane. We are a perfect 6 for 6 in drivers getting their first career wins on the season here in the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series. Let's talk with Alexander Kerfan. Hey, Alex, it's Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Man, we saw a lot of moving around there in the pack behind you on that green-white checkered. You had it
Man,
all
fireworks.
happening in your rearview mirror. Absolutely. I mean, how nervous were you there coming out of turn 4, seeing those couple of lanes put together? Did you have a defense plan? We know you had a teammate back there, but if they got alongside you, could you have held them off?
Yeah, I seen them get the run on the backstretch like Aaron was talking about, and I planned on sticking with Aaron as long as I could through 3 and 4, but they're still pulling up and up. So I just made the split decision to maintain the lead. I needed to go up and kill their run and at least put one of our cars in victory lane, and ended up working. Pretty happy with that. Aaron was able to maintain 3rd. That was great for him.
I mean, in terms of team dynamics, obviously that's changed a lot over the last week, but you guys seem to have it pretty much controlled because you guys were there right throughout the race. When you come to Talladega, though, and all of a sudden there's an extended green flag run with 2 green flag pit stops, how uncommon is that, man? That's
That was wild.
That was so good, though, wasn't it?
That was some of the most fun I've had so far this season, to be honest. And I was not gonna lie, I was pretty nervous coming in, considering my first run at Daytona with the green flag pit stops. I don't want to relive that moment, but I nailed all the pit stops today. I'm so happy about that.
I mean, let's also talk about the closing stages of the race with the cautions coming out. We ended up seeing that you were obviously trying to get yourself lined up with the 95 on the upcoming restarts, had drivers behind that had teammates trying to line up. I mean, how good, how consistent was the communication between you and the 95 to make sure that the two of you were going to control those restarts with starting side by side in the front row?
Oh, we had great communication. He was very attentive, everything I had to say. I was listening to everything he had to say. Yeah, we were able to slot in each restart and make things work. It was a great race.
It's incredible the fact that back-to-back seasons at Talladega, we see the 99 go to victory lane, but 2 different drivers, champion Matthew Robinson last season. This season, it's yourself parking that machine in victory lane. Congratulations on a job well done. Your first
Thank you.
win as well here in the BackFire Sim Racing Cup Series, so congratulations on that. We're now going to turn the mic over to you for some victory lane thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Well, as always, like to thank my family watching right now. Huge support. Like to thank all of our sponsors. Serenity Sun Tanning, our main sponsor today. Awesome livery. Coastal Pacific Marketing. Phillips Golf Academy, debuting their new livery on Jeremy's car today. Max Graphics, he makes the best liveries I've seen. We got so many. Bam Auto Ventures, JR's Mobile Detailing, all of them. If I forgot any, I apologize. I'd like to thank my teammates, Aaron Brown, Jeremy, our new addition, Jeffrey, and man, we missed out on Brock today, but I hope he was watching. I did this for you, Brock.
Alexander Kerfan is your winner here tonight in the BackFire 250 presented by JKR Motorsports. Congratulations, Alex, on a job well done. Best of luck down the remainder of the schedule here heading for the playoffs.
Thank you. Have a good one, guys. Oh, and thank you guys for the great broadcast.
Kerfan picking up It is going to be the third win on the season for JKR Motorsports, and for all three of those wins, it's the first time that those drivers, Silvati, Brown, and now Kerfan, have gone to victory lane under the BackFire banner. Scott, we said coming into this race, a lot of moving and shaking. We knew there was going to be a lot of moving and shaking out on the racetrack as well. Long green flag run at the beginning. We had the fireworks at the end, but now it's time for these drivers to take the opportunity, see where they're situated after this wild card race. It's the last super speedway that they are going to be at for the entirety of the season now. Now it's time to focus on Charlotte, New Hampshire, Watkins Glen, Las Vegas, because now this is where basically you're in control of your destiny in making it into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's it. And, we're going to drivers' tracks from here on out throughout the season. Charlotte, you've really got to make sure that you maneuver that car around the track in a good manner. New Hampshire and Watkins Glen, Las Vegas, all of these tracks are drivers' tracks from here on out to the end of the season. There's only 4 races to get your points in order. So far, of the 6 races we've had, 2 of them have been super speedways. So this is the long run now down to the end of the season. You've got to settle in. You've got to make sure that you're picking up points every single week. A failure from here on out is just not acceptable. It's not going to be enough to get you across that line, and that's what a lot of these guys are going to put in the back of their minds.
As we get further in the schedule, we keep pushing the envelope, but what do you think? Next week at Charlotte, do we go 7 for 7? Because Woodard says Charlotte's one of his favorite tracks. We almost had the streak snap tonight with Woodard and Brown finishing up inside the podium.
Yeah, I mean, so close yet so far. Charlotte, I really want to back Christopher Woodard in. He's been, for me, probably the standout driver so far. He's been so close to being, multi-time winner, multiple races of the season. So look, if there's anyone that's heading into the next few weeks of the season with confidence, it's got to be Christopher Woodard. I'm fairly confident with his finishes over the last few races. He should be leading the championship. If he's not, he'll be very, very close to it. And this is a points-based championship. You don't just win and you're into those playoffs. He's basically at the point now. Another good finish at Charlotte, lock him in. That is first position locked in. It's not a hard lock, though. He can still lose it if he fails to finish at Hampshire, Watkins Glen, and Las Vegas. But provided he comes out next week and puts it on the podium, I think we've got to have first man locked in.
Well, next week's going to be a special one as drivers will don the red, white, and blue on their machines. It's Patriotic Week at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Hope you guys will be joining us for that. The green flag will be flying next Friday night at 8 p.m. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wow, I mean, Talladega never seems to disappoint in its delivery for a great finish, and it did not disappoint here tonight. Kerfan is your winner at the High Banks in Talladega, Alabama. Scott, it's been a great one. Appreciate you joining me in the booth this evening.
Oh, look, I mean, like I said, I'm not necessarily always a fan of super speedway races, but this was a good one here tonight.
No doubt about it. Thank you to everybody that tuned in this evening. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage here, and hope you'll join us for Charlotte next week. Tomorrow night, we're going to be bringing you coverage of the final regular season race for the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals at the Lady in Black, the track too tough to tame. It's Darlington that's going to set off the playoff grid for those drivers heading into their first playoff race at Daytona. We'll be bringing you coverage of that tomorrow night with the green flag flying at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you'll join us for that. For Scott Rankin, though, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Friday evening as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.